There he is.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
You beat Anna on, so
I was doing the crazy camera thing. Hi.
yeah, it's all good. How you doing? Oh, here comes Anna. Aha.
So are you guys Gen Con or Gen Can this year?
Gen Can.
Okay.
I'm doing both weekends at Gary Con next year. Founders
Got it.
Legends and regular.
Yes, me too. Me too. See you there? Yeah.
I'm already planning another 2-drink minimum game on that Saturday morning again. Hopefully, that we did like last year.
Excellent.
Yep.
Do we bring drinks this time?
That's
Two?
in the morning. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Let's start as we mean to go on.
Oh man.
Yeah, so too good to see you again, Ed. Awesome. Yep.
Likewise. Hi.
And we're playing in 2 weeks too. So.
Yep.
Yep. And I got you on standby, but more than likely you're going to be in on this.
Okay. Yep.
It just depends on
Yep.
I always try to bring.
That's good.
Josh and I are trying to bring some new people in, but
but it's good. Keep me on standby.
Yeah,
so, and I can join in short notice if need be.
Awesome.
Yep.
How am I? Go ahead.
I put your guy, your boy, in Discord. I let him know that in general I put an ad out for this. All right, just so you're aware. If it's got to get next, that's fine. But I just wanted everyone to know that you're going to be on.
That's great.
Discord.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Question.
Yes.
How's my headroom? Are we okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
You're a little bit low. You kind of sitting a little bit low. Now you're even lower. That's perfect. Yep. There you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I now have this gooseneck thing, and all gooseneck things, the little thing at the end is on a gimbal, so you arrange it all, and then the gimbal goes.
That's
high tech. And I think, high tech. It's just, and the only difference is with this stuff is the stuff I learned on, my father's and stuff, the Second World War stuff was heavy, cast iron, bolt. It was made to last, and this stuff is
if you
plastic.
didn't get that one right, it will come down and kill you on the way
Yeah,
down.
well, yeah. But you can rig it with coat hangers and stuff, the wire, and now everything's plastic and crap, and it just goes foam, and it's dead. Buy a new one,
How's your summer going, Ed?
Oh, busy. I'm getting a lot of writing done. I'm digging my way out from under all the stuff, when I was looking after Jen, and stuff was piling up that I'd promised. I'm finally getting most of it written. So I, and hand it in to people, so I feel a little better. I feel a little less guilty, all the stuff that's been piling up.
Right.
So I'm getting through it, and I know what's going to happen. I'll go to Gen Con, and we're going to say, "Oh, good, now that you're here, I'd like to do this." Sure, I'll say, because I never learned to say
Then
no.
you're busy again.
Yeah.
Show up at a convention, and you have 6 months of work again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. If it's one person who keeps themselves busy and delivers, it's you. I've seen your YouTube content and all. It's been
wow, it's amazing. You're super productive nowadays. You've always been, but now it's even more visible.
Well, there are 50 Patreon posts piled up that they haven't published yet.
That's great.
Oh wow.
Well,
that
because I was so scared of keeping them waiting and running out, so I just went
Jeff, congrats on the gold badge. I heard Curtis didn't get one, so you got it.
Look at all of this lovely terrain.
Yes.
Oh, all this stuff I can't afford, all this stuff
darling.
I have no room for. Let's get it.
Buy it.
Yes.
That's
buy
the fun thing is, by the way, everyone, Chuck is in the hospital. Chuck Tupperwell. Just so you're aware, I think he's okay. But he's in the hospital, so. I switched the giveaways from Troller Games to reprints tonight because of that. So.
Yeah, I hope he's going to be alright.
Yeah. Alright, just to make everyone aware.
Yeah, keep some thoughts.
Yes. Or Ed, that's right. Someone said that in the Discord chat. Yes.
Yep. Well, thank you, Pat66. Thank you. I'm so glad you tuned in a little bit. It was kind
Dinner,
of
darling.
just a RP session today. No big event, no combat, nothing like that.
Yeah, I caught some of it, and I was running around like a crazy man.
Oh yeah, I think you got the numbers up. So yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, LJ. All right, let me hit some more buttons. We're almost there. That was the wrong button. I hit the wrong button.
Uh-oh.
I gotta do Gamescape first.
You got it early, so
I got it early. Yeah, I'll cut this one a little short. I know, Pat. We're babbling here. We're babbling here. Turn this down. There, I turned that one down.
Oh, look at all this.
I don't know, LJ. If Ed, Nerdy Guide, Ed, remember we talked about all that information, whether they could share it and all they did? She did that video. LJ did. You remember you gave all that information.
Sure.
Yeah, it was good. So, LJ, link it in chat, please.
Yeah, of course you can share it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
And I'm looking forward to your Greyhawks, MJ.
Thank you.
I'm looking for. Yeah, I want Greyhawk love. It is time. It is more than time.
Yeah, he was. Apparently, he has some a blood infection or something. So I talked to him briefly today. He actually felt real bad during a stream yesterday morning, and I didn't even know that. So okay, cool. That's a YouTube vid. Awesome. So what I'm gonna do here, hopefully I don't crash the stream. But I'm gonna bring up Twitch on my. You may hear a double, everyone. Just ignore that. But I'm gonna do that so I can link it to Ed in chat and on Discord. So it's. There we go. I did it.
Discord.
Yeah. I linked it. I linked it to you just right here in the Zoom chat.
The Zoom chat.
Yeah. I linked it to you. So you can, I linked it to you in the Zoom chat.
I'm gonna click the thing. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
got it.
Mark that.
I will copy that. I will.
Yep. Cool.
Where's my little thing here? I will learn how to use Microsoft Word. I will. GD graphic interfaces. Whatever happened to command line? Huh? There we go. Yes.
Probably got old in the 70s. Yeah.
Yes. Well, computers to me are men in white lab coats with clipboards and a floor that booms and thunders because it's panels that you lift up and there are little black telephones underneath it with cables snaking around.
Now computers is that thing that nags at you in your pocket that tells
I don't have, I still don't have a smartphone. It's so wonderful. I deal with Hollywood, and they go, "Are you a studio boss? Wow, you don't have a smartphone." And I say, "I have people for that."
I have an Ed shout out.
Yep. Your assistants and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, you're so oh my god, because everyone in Hollywood their phones are on 24/7.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for a call, and I just go, "I don't care." And they go, "What do you mean you don't care?" And I said, "When am I going to get my writing done if I'm always, paying attention to texts and phone calls?" And they go, "Oh my god,
you must be a
studio boss."
You're above the fray, and then you're dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now, of course, now they're all out of work on strike.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep. On the picket lines.
Yep.
Okay.
Dear.
So I do have a big shout out for Ed there. Is his Discord in there? I don't. Everything's in there but Ed's Discord. So if we can get that as a shout. I can add that to the shout out at some point. I'll get with your mod for that and add that to it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Give me 1 second here. We're good. That's why I'm getting a second off here. Look at that. Oh, all right. Nice. Good evening, everyone. Sunday evening. Oh, you guys both came on before I had the stream started.
You didn't get your windows right. There we are.
Ed and Anna, great to see you tonight for a wonderful discussion. It's great to have Ed back. Ed, great to see you. The busiest man in all of the RPG world, I think.
Oh, God, no.
In the multiverse, in all of the realms. Yep.
Why can't I be young and lazy again? Damn it.
I don't think you were lazy even when you were young.
As people are rolling in there, good to see everyone. A quickie announcement. If you are part of Virtual GrowCon and you are part of the stream group, I appreciate you already getting in your game. Those that haven't, I want you to get your games in, please, so I can get the schedule finalized.
I need to, I need to get my butt in.
I wasn't bashing you.
No, but I'm the one that is on the fence on running a game or not. So I need to get in there and yeah.
Awesome. So I won't call anyone out tonight. But I will. Thank you very much, K Ogre.
Exactly, Guild Superior or Dave. Yeah.
Dave got his in. Wwiley Hobby got his in. I'll tell everyone who got theirs in.
See,
Garner got his in.
See, it's me.
A lot of but it's going. And Greyhawk Reborn's in now, and we're getting a lot of sign up. So keep it rolling, please. But tonight, Ed, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here. Great to see you guys again. Hi.
Absolutely. And you excited me a lot that you're going to be in GaryCon up there for 9 days, just like me. That's awesome. And in between the Founders and Legends, and in between GaryCon, there's like 3 days of nothing. Looks like
then we're setting up the other convention. I will be there, and I will not be doing nothing. It will be a lot of work.
Ed and I will be partying. How's that sound?
Yeah, well, Josh will be to work
somewhere because I ain't doing that.
The Lake Geneva has changed a lot, but the same liquor store is there, and the next door pub has actually been like refurbished. But I know where it is, so.
I didn't
have the car, so
I didn't hear that about John from Phoenix. I did not know he was injured. He shattered heel. In Japan too. So I guess they got good hospitals there.
I think they do. Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. All right.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to do this. It should be set. The giveaway should be set. Exclamation point drawing. At least one of these. I even got an Ed publication here. We got treasures, and then we got a full Free City of Greyhawk reprint, right? And then we also have Drow of the Underdark.
Drow of the Underdark, yes.
Reprint by Ed Greenwood. There you go.
By the way, if you open Drow of the Underdark and look at the introduction, there's a little picture there of Elminster sitting smoking a pipe, and there's a naked Drow lady.
Yes.
In the pool. And
how the heck did you get young naked ladies in the?
Ed could get anything he wanted.
No. They had a Realms traffic cop to stop me going over the line, but the Realms traffic cop could do nothing about the art department, and the art department put that in. So I have just released, and it's free. It's not part of the paid bit. Susprina Arkaneld is that young lady's name, and I wrote up all the lore and her entire story. And it's not as pornographic as you think. She's Elminster's apprentice, but that was because her father got her out of a family feud where they were killing everybody off.
Nice.
Then he turned around and did revenge. He devoted himself to getting back at everything, but he wanted to keep her safe, so he dumped her on Elminster.
Was she from Menzer Barrington?
No, another city.
Another city. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah. It's all about wallpapering the entire globe with stuff.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, maybe we'll hear a little more. You never know tonight, because we always don't know where these discussions will go. They go all over the place, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Momentous events. Well, momentous events can be localized or they can be world affecting. So, we have what's the word? Carte blanche to discuss anything you want tonight, Ed, really. So I know you said there were many in the past, but you said there were 3 main ones in the last 100 years. Before those, give me an example of one way in the past.
Oh, sure. Well, the famous one that everybody talks about is the Dawn Cataclysm.
Okay.
Now, the problem with all the really early ones is they're like our world's myths.
Right.
You know, when you say, "But Daddy, why does it get dark at night?" Well, that's because, the great world serpent devours the sun and it poos it out every morning and we get the sun again or whatever, So those sort of stories, that's the problem. The really, really old ones, the early ones, in the case of the Dawn Cataclysm, it's all about Lathander and a Monitor and people getting killed and so on. Deities, that is. Everybody disagrees about what really happened. And nobody alive today knows. It's all, this god tells their priesthood this, which is propaganda to make them look good. And the god on the other side tells their priesthood that, because that makes that deity seem important and at the center of things and so on. So there are these conflicting versions of what went on, which is why I don't really get thrilled to talk about the really old ones, because nobody knows the truth. They're just sort of, they're stories used by priests to beat common people with. You be good, or just like happened in the Dawn Cataclysm, so and so will come and eat your soul, and sort of it's that sort of stuff, rather than stuff that people alive today live through and therefore knows what happens. And the best way to talk about it is the Second World War.
Right.
Second World War is a real event, and we've now reached the time where everybody who was alive in that war is dying off.
Yep.
They're old enough, and that means the myth makers, the people who want to tell lies about it or exaggerate about it or twist what really happened, can really go to town, because there's nobody left alive who can say, "Wait a minute, I was there." Yeah. Now, to give you a perfect example of this, to bring it back to gaming and to take it away from real world politics, years and years ago in a Milwaukee era Gen Con, there were guests of honor that year. Andy Offit was the author guest of honor. I think I was the RPGA guest of honor. And Donald Featherstone, the famous wargamer from England, little quiet man with his hair slicked back, 5'0", was the gaming guest of honor. And some guy from the War College was giving one of those Gen Con lectures, and he was talking about Rommel and Monty in the Desert War, blah 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 blah, and he's talking away and
LLME.
Yeah, well, just before that, the Tobruk stuff, and he's talking about the tank battles, and he says, "Now, as we see here, it was obvious that Rommel had outflanked the British. They didn't know what they were doing, so they turned along here." And he's in the middle of this, and we're all sitting in the audience, and in the middle of the audience is one of those microphones set up for questions at the end. And Donald Featherstone gets up and he goes to the microphone. It's over his head. So he reaches up to pull the microphone down to point at his head, and it makes a noise. And the guy looks up in mid-thing and he says, "Questions later," blah, 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 sort of thing. And Donald Featherstone says, "Excuse me, but you're wrong." And the War College guy says, "Excuse me, I have 2 doctorates. I wrote my thesis on this." And Donald Featherstone says, well, that's very nice, sir. How nice for you. But I was driving that tank, and it was one of the perfect. I
was there.
Phones. Yeah, I drove that
was
tank.
There.
So I can tell you we turned this way because,
Wow.
And of course, that's the thing.
Yeah.
When people are still alive,
it gets
that they will not allow the big lies to be told and the twisting of perspective, because they saw what they saw. Now, sometimes they'll disagree with each other. I'm sure if you lived through the Battle of Britain as a little kid with stuff raining from the skies.
Yeah, there's different types of stories being told while there's eyewitnesses and then afterwards. So,
Yeah, so that's why I don't really like talking about the early mythic stuff in the realms, because it is mythic. That's the problem. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
So that's a great point. But when we talk about that for you, like for us in Greyhawk, it's anything pre-Invoke Devastation, really, right, Anna?
Got it.
For us, that's like, you
meaning
can make
we
up
have
whatever
like
you
a
want. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's interesting. In Greyhawk, it has about 1,000 years of written down history, so to speak, that are fairly, meaning the sources seems to generally agree on what's there, and it's basically it's been added on over the published history of the setting, so to speak. But anything before then, it's basically up for grabs. There's been various fan done a little bit here, a little bit there, and I'm writing my campaign version of the story, and it's I'm going to attack it two ways, because I, as a DM, I want to know what actually happened, but then I also want to have different mythical versions, meaning like, what did the Flan, what do they say about it? The Old Faith, the Druids and stuff. What's their version of what happened? And then what's the Oridian story? What's the Great Kingdom Foundation myths and all that, so to speak? And the Soul, the Scarlet Brotherhood and the Soul, what are their stories of their past?
Yeah.
And so on. So I want to, and I wanted to rest on those pillars, because as a DM, I want to, meaning where could they actually find the old relics and the abandoned cities and stuff, meaning that's the hard proof, that the few little scattered remains that actually are there, so to speak. And then you have all the mythical stuff, and then there should be kind of an interesting crossover where there actually is an old dead god where you can go and fish out some stuff, but the story might not be what the legends say, but there might be a carcass there somewhere or something. So I like to you should play with both the myth and the reality, and kind of mix and blend the two over time, so to speak.
Yeah, and it allows for some interesting things to happen in writing or in published source. Like, for example, you get a Vecna cartoon thing comes out, right, and then that somehow that becomes canon, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because they add something about Vecna, and then they say, oh, but they sometimes retcon it into Greyhawk, and say, well, what was there happening in Greyhawk, and then Vecna's backstory 20 years after Greyhawk was invented and published, then that becomes part of the Greyhawk myth and Vecna. And Acererak is another one that was probably not intended to be Greyhawk originally, but then he came in, and then people writing story, and and now he's one of these old liches of Greyhawk that used to be there, and people started to put him in the age bracket where he probably lived, and so on and so forth. Kiraptis is another one that wasn't written originally. It was White Blue Mountain,
which got pulled in.
Exactly, and then he got in there. So a setting has that kind of, especially a published setting, that after Gary left TSR or was ousted or however that happened, but afterwards it became a published setting only. It was not Gary's home campaign anymore. It took on a life as a published setting, and then all sorts of published stuff kind of flooded in, and then you had fan stuff, and now we have like a whole conglomerate of things that set up the setting. Yeah.
Yep. Look at that.
And in a weird way, the same thing has happened with the Realms.
I was just going to say, how's that?
It was my home campaign.
Yeah.
And then the published starts deviating from mine immediately, because they're putting in Egyptian pyramids, the Desert of Desolation.
Yeah,
they're sinking my Moonshays and putting in Doug's Albion TSR UK Moonshays.
Yeah,
and so it's changing from the word go. But there were parts of things like I didn't have Karatur in the Realms. I didn't have I know this is now politically incorrect, but in those days, Oriental, as in Oriental Adventures, I didn't have anything overtly real world. And there are pitfalls every time you do close real world analogs, because of what I was just alluding to in that story about the War College and Donald Featherstone. There's somebody who's an expert in the real world on something in the past, and they start applying that at the gaming table, because, oh no, I know the Egyptians did this, or I know the Babylonians did that, or what we know of the cuisine of the ancient Greeks is this because of the shipwrecks and the amphorae. And it's like, okay, all of that, good or bad, is pulling you pulling your head out of the gaming table and the gaming experience, and you're back in the real world and saying, but wait a minute, stirrups weren't invented until, that sort of.
Yeah.
It's
oh, sorry.
So no, I'm sorry to hop in here.
No,
I'm multitasking like usual. Thank you, so Quest Junkies UK for the raid. That was really kind of you. Hang out. We got Ed here. We're gonna have a great discussion on momentous events of Greyhawk and the Realms. It's like, I guess it's not a bad thing though. We talked that we had a recent Legends of Lore where we had the topic was stolen for Greyhawk, right? And like we're talking about the Isle of Dread and everything that got like most of them Gary stole, Gary Julian, but like. I guess it's not a bad thing. But as long as it's not like, it's different with Greyhawk, I think, because it kind of was the main one. But Ed is still around doing Forgotten Realms. And Ed, like, I hate to ask, but I'm gonna ask it. Is there something like someone did like in lore, and you're like, my God, I can't stand that, or has it been pretty good? Have you had control over the years?
It's been pretty good, except if you're a fan, say, of Marvel Comics, and you read them for 30, 40 years, like, I'm not quite old enough to remember timely comics with the Human Torch as a Second World War hero, so but I'm old enough to remember Marvel just starting. And I bought the comics regularly, monthly, most of those years. And when the things that don't work for me is when somebody twists the backstory of a character, an existing character, or their alignment or outlook to fit their new plot of the moment. So, and this isn't just Marvel. DC did it too with Catwoman, the way she's changing over the years to fit the plot of the moment. Whereas if you use an existing character in a way that makes everybody go, that's why. This is this. Then you go, that's brilliant, because it reinforces what you already know about the character. So for me, it's when people in the realms didn't act the way they should have done. And in my case, it was the Avatar series of modules. I wrote those, but I wrote them. My deadline was like 6-7 months before the novels were due. So the novels came in and they rewrote my modules in-house to match the novels. And they had things like Morngrim in Shadowdale and Sharantir and the others behaving out of character to fit the plot of the module. And there's one point in which you're reading it and Harper troopers come riding over the hill. And I said, what the hell? This isn't the American Civil War. Harpers don't have troopers. Harpers are the Sierra Club, hiding in the woods. They're walking through the trees. They do not ride around like troopers with uniforms. And you see, somebody had got it wrong as far as I was concerned. So those are the moments in the realms where I'm not thrilled when somebody gets something wrong. However, the countervailing thing is, if I describe something and handed it in as part of the realm's turnover, but the public didn't see it because it wasn't published, and then either a novelist or a game designer detailing an area reads what I wrote and said, yeah, that's nice, but I'm going to change it. That's okay, because the published realms is deviating from mine, and they had a story reason for changing it, and the public hasn't seen the change. They just had it presented to them for the first time. That's okay. It's just an alternate realms from mine, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, because it's consistent in itself, the published realms. So, now, basically, like what every home campaign becomes when they run. If you keep consistency within your own campaign, then it works, so to speak.
Yeah. So, the only thing I hate is when somebody makes a change, and you say, but what about the trade route that runs right through that? And they go, oh, never mind. And you go, no, don't never mind me. I designed this world to all work together, and you're running us through it like a vandal saying, well, I had to fix your car. The electrical system's overloaded, so I disconnected the headlights and the power doors and the power windows just to make the motor run better. You won't even miss them. And it's like, yeah, I sort of do. I don't want changes that don't fit the tapestry. If there's a trade route running through it and you need to change that or stop the trade route, give me an in-world reason why it changed, and I'm happy. To tell me, oh, it just happened, who cares? Or it's always been that way, you just didn't know it. No, those are both lazy design and cop-outs.
Yeah.
All right, so Ed, 2 quick things. You're the nicest guy in the world. Can you say, hey, Chuck from Troller Games and John from Phoenix E, please get better soon?
Sure. Chuck from Troll Lord Games. And
John from Phoenix Iwaki.
John from Phoenix Iwaki, get better soon.
Because
we all deserve long and happy lives. And we all want to die peacefully in our sleep, not suffer, and not have trammeled lives until then. And we want to live to the fullest into our 100th year.
And play a lot of games.
Play a lot of games, yes, yes. And buy all the games. And then everybody in the gaming industry will be a billionaire and will get better and better games because they can afford it.
Yep.
Number 2, Stronghold D&D asked a question, and I think I know the answer. Ed, what about in the course of gameplay, something changes, and I'm like, that's your table. That's a whole different story. We're talking about, we're talking published source or gameplay, anything goes.
Yeah. And when something changes, the dungeon master should always be looking at, how can I use this? How can this make the world better? How can this make the actual campaign's experience at the table richer? So you just run with it. If somebody says, but what about his nephew? Didn't we run into his nephew 8 years ago? Like real time at the gaming table? And you go, oh, they remembered the nephew. Wow, I gotta reward them for this. Not punish them, reward them. Hey, they remembered the nephew. Let's do something with that. And of course, that's the countervailing thing. If you as a dungeon master don't know why somebody's doing something, just sit there and don't tell them. Your players will come up with a reason and you'll say, gosh, you guys are brilliant. You figured it out. And then you quickly scribble down the reason and pretend you thought of it that way all along.
Yep.
So, we'll take a couple quicks and we'll get into some of our momentous here because Ed, you're getting a lot. Stronghold, I may ask that one. Cave Geek says, was there anything published that you did not have in your home campaign, but you thought it was great and adopted that you can think of? Because I know almost everything you've done has come from your game.
Yeah, a lot of it has. But there are lots of little things. The Warrens that Elaine Cunningham added to Waterdeep. Cool. Okay, that's one tiny thing. It's more Bob bringing Menzo to life, which meant we got a drow city that of the sort we'd seen in Queen of the Demonwood Pits, but you got to see what it was like to live in that city. What was it really like for the drow? Because then you understood the drow. Instead of them generic evil people who will have hand crossbows and they have wands of viscid globs and these nasty priestesses will smite you. But it didn't really go much beyond that in the module because the module was concerned with this big adventure. But when you saw Bob's early novels, the Menzo Baranzan I'm talking about now,
right?
As opposed to the trilogy where the Crystal Shard and so on, because there you're seeing Drist as a member of an adventuring team, and he's just one more weird misfit amongst all the weird misfits in the adventuring team. Brunor's another, Wolfgar's another, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when you see Menzo, okay, this is how this society works. Got it. Fascinating. And therefore you understand what makes the drow tick. So that was wonderful to have that added. And then there are 2 unheralded or not heralded enough lore lords of the realms, Eric Boyd and George Crashos. And they have made a career over the entire published realms of taking inconsistencies from published products and explaining them away in game. And they've always added stuff. Well, this appears to contradict this, but that's because, and then they create a whole new thing. And it's like, oh, this is wonderful. And as a result of all this, Eric Boyd has published this huge Under Ilfar Nanu campaign, which he wrote for his son as a young player to get into the realm. So it's suitable for that. And George has detailed Impiltur, the kingdom, from what was basically a map and a name, that's the way I had it, into a living kingdom with a huge detailed history. And we're still working on growing lexicons of all of the languages: Elvish, Dwarvish, Gnomish, Giant. We just keep adding words because these two guys compiled everything that every author had written in all of their novels and all of their adventures. And then they constantly pepper me with questions. Yeah, but how would a dwarf say, item I lost around the house? It's just mislaid. It's not lost, it's just mislaid. What word would they use? Oh, so I tell them, and they add it to the lexicon. And so we've been building these huge lexicons. They're not published yet, but we can draw on them all the time, which makes the world more realistic. Because whenever somebody says, but how would a dwarf say, it is at the third bridge that you have to watch out for the trap? Here's how you say that in Dwarvish.
Mm-hmm. And whereas you have that, we have that with the community, with all the fanon, which in my opinion, is way better than the published source material for Greyhawk. The later public, right? What do you think about that, Anna?
Well, I would say that fanon spans the whole gamut, so to speak, of quality from the best to the worst. But on the other hand, like LG in that sense was very much Living Greyhawk. It spanned from the best to the worst. But when it comes to the older material, that was more curated, so to speak. Yeah. So the published material, which means that it doesn't, you cut away the bottom half because someone edited it and looked over it and stuff. So you have like from so and so to fantastic. So but Greyhawk also have, just like the realms, but in some ways different, because Greyhawk has that really like 4 decades span of published content, and it's been various different regimes at TSR and Wizard of the Coast. So first you had the Gary era when he was the curator of it, and he made sure that it fitted into his view, and Greyhawk was his baby. And after that came the era when they basically kind of screwed that over and probably did several products just to maybe even piss him off. I don't know, but at least it cut loose from Gary's stuff, so to speak. And then came a kind of a Carl Sargent era when they wanted to revive Greyhawk and take it into a new direction. And Carl Sargent and others came in and they kind of gave Greyhawk a new direction, and that lasted for some years, and then they were like, no, we're not going to publish anything more, and then it stalled for some years, and then came the second revival in the 90s when they geared up for 3rd edition in the Living Greyhawk era, where they took in, that was when Roger E. Moore took over the helm and had a lot of stuff and looked over it, and you got a whole set of new products, so to speak, that built and corrected and added and stuff on it. So then you had that culminated with the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer and stuff. And then came the Living Greyhawk campaign, but that also meant we didn't see any more published things for the setting. And then you get the Living Greyhawk that is kind of semi to barely published lore, so to speak. Yeah.
We have the Living Greyhawk Journal Gazettes too.
Exactly. We had them on the side that was and they are published, meaning stuff. Yeah, exactly. Some of it is published, but it's not published the normal way. It's published a little bit on the side channel, and then you had all the modules and then all the Triad source books and stuff that were put out on the internet and were kind of official but not really official. So then there was a lot of gray zone, and so Greyhawk really spans the whole gamut, and it's interesting. And if you want to take like I did with my mapping, you want to take a complete scope of Greyhawk, you have to take into account, and you have to kind of put some emphasis, say, oh, well, I put the published stuff first, and then I put the Living Greyhawk under it. But then you also have another category, several authors that wrote official stuff, wrote fan stuff in Earth Journal and other stuff afterwards, clarifying, adding, changing and stuff. Even Len Kafka did it too. So we have a plethora of I would say, inside fan fiction or fan fiction by published authors of the setting, and that adds another thing. And I put that on the side, and then you kind of and if you want to run and use as much of the published material as possible, you basically have to do that kind of thing yourself as a DM. You have to, how do you weigh this or that, so to speak, and also what time period do you set it in and stuff. So it's kind of a thing, and it's a daunting thing, but you don't really have to. You can just get the 83 box set or From the Ashes or Living Greyhawk Gazetteer and run with it and ignore most of the other stuff too. So you don't have to, but it is a kind of a complex material. It's like taking a doctorate to read through, and it taken me 3-4 decades to digest it, so to speak. And I still feel like I'm learning new stuff every day when I'm doing it.
Speaking of that, Ed wanted some Greyhawk lore, so let's just hop right into this This is the 80 glossography, which got me as a child hooked.
Well, the first published Greyhawk product that was published, I think, that as a true Greyhawk product.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was some stuff in the white books. And
exactly, there was some Dragon articles and stuff, but the first real product by itself with Greyhawk, so to speak. Yeah.
And the timeline is good. The timeline is pretty good. They have the Sewell calendar here, so there's some details, but the number one, I mean, Anna, we can argue this, and Ed, I'm not sure how involved you were back in. I know you may have been doing some writing in 80, right? You were doing writing and submitting at that point. Yeah.
Yep.
But beyond, I mean, just this picture. I love this picture of the Evoke Devastation. It's just like, blah, everything's getting destroyed. But is there a bigger event in this, Anna? Evoke Devastation, Rain of Colors, Fire?
Well, it's interesting. I'm starting to do a series of historic maps. So I'm starting to look into it. And we have this and that. That's timeline is basically being repeated in both in the 83 box set From the Ashes and the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer. It's been edited and added on and changed in a little bit of detail here and there as it's been republished, so to speak. But it's basically the same thing. It's just a lot of more words and added to it. But it's basically the same story. It goes on for about 1,500 years, but we don't know much before then. And then there's been several alternate or additional ones in Earth Journal and fan-made ones. Some of them made by distinguished author that wrote some of this. So we have some of the additional one. Roger Moore and Gary Julian and others have written articles explaining, adding to it, which I think is really cool. So we have stories now going back 15,000 years, which it's interesting. So I'm taking into account, but we have several epochs, and now I want to ask Ed, how many distinct kind of epochs or eras or ages do you have in Forgotten Realms, and how long is the story you think of the setting itself? Meaning, are we going back millions of years, thousands of years, and is there sort of evolution, or did just things come out of a kind of the gods created something and there we were, so to speak? Yeah.
And that's the problem, like I was alluding to earlier. The earlier you get, the more problematic, the more mythic the history gets. But there was this wonderful product called The Grand History of the Realms, which exists as a published hardcover official book because Brian James, who was a fan of the Realms, was compiling all of the historical stuff into this ever expanding timeline until TSR wanted him to take it down off because people were starting to consult it, but they hit upon the idea of let's buy it and make a product out of it. And then they called a whole bunch of us, me, George Crashos, Eric Boyd, a bunch of the lower lords to weigh in and fill in the gaps. And then they added this bit that was bringing us up to the spell plague right at the end. Okay. Kim Mohan was editing the product, and he sort of showed me the last few pages that they were adding on, to bring it up. And it was like, are you okay with this? Like, because what he was trying to avoid was me going out on the interwebs and going, he wanted to avoid that. So he said, yeah, it's your baby. Every single person who borrows my vet or buys my vet is going to drive it. Yeah. That's what the vet is for. If you drive it off a cliff, that's your problem. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to watch, because I would never drive it off a cliff. So I want to see it bounce, sort of thing. But no, now the epochs are okay. In the grand history of the realms, we go back almost 100,000 years. Okay, but again, the early stuff is this empire, and then this empire, and we don't know much about this empire. Yeah. So the last one that we have the crown wars amongst the elves, but we have Netheril, and Netheril, to me, in the home realms before it was published as a setting, Netheril was that wonderful time in the past, sort of like ancient Rome is to Americans when they look back and
the civilized past, kind of.
Yeah, we have a Senate, we have citizens who vote and pay taxes, and we borrow all that stuff from Romans, sort of thing. And Netheril was my explanation for when they mastered humans, and they may have gotten it from somewhere else, the Imascari, the elves, and so on. But when humans used magic for everything, they were masters of magic, and they made their cities fly all over the place. And half those cities fell over the sky and crashed, and they're still around as ruins or whatever. That was the golden age of magic before the Dark Age, and then we're recovering from that. So there's Netheril. Then there's all the stuff where kingdoms that we know today, like Cormyr and so on, are being founded. And in between, there's the old empires, Mulhor and Unser and so on, and their long history. And then we come into the sort of the 1200s, DR, Dale Reckoning, which is, this is how things settle down to where they are now. And then play in the Home Realms campaign started in the 1350s. Right at the beginning of the 1350s. And the published realms, the Old Grey Box, starts around 1357 DR. And of course, since then, we've had the Time of Troubles. That's the first modern Momentous event. Then we came up to around 385 or so, and we had the Spell Plague. And the Spell Plague drove many arcane spellcasters, wizards, sorcerers, mad. It made magic go wild all over so all sorts of cities crashed and fell apart because their walls had been put up with magic, and you couldn't trust magic anymore. And then that was used as out of game as a timeline jump, which meant that Wizards of the Coast could now license out the realms and say to the licensees, doesn't matter what was there before, you can put anything you want in your product because 100 years have passed.
That sounds familiar.
And that brings us up into the 1400s, the 1480s DR, and then we have the Second Sundering. So those are the three recent Momentous events. And now, in the published realms, all these glossy hardcover books, we are knocking on the door of 1,500 DR as a year. We're at 1497, 98, and 99 in the last few products. So we're just about to, and things are sort of settling down again. So the epochs would be the dear distant past when anything went, and then sort of the 1200s where the world as we know it solidified. Then the 1300s, we had probably half a century of game adventures, source books, everything covered. We knew how the world was breathing. Then we had the Spell Plague, and we jumped about 100 years. And then there's the epoch of now, which is Tomb of Annihilation, Storm King's Thunder, all of these books. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, do I go there, everyone? Sure. Which of those are you responsible for? All three, or it was like at that point did they ask you like, hey Ed, we want to do this, or does this make sense? Like, for example, Spell Plague.
No, that was them entirely. It was like, you want a what?
Okay. Okay.
and to me, it was like, listen.
Okay.
I realize that as a company that makes money by making cards in Magic the Gathering obsolescent and selling us new editions of the game, so we have to buy the same stuff over and over again. And of course, once you turn D&D over to the bean counters, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what's the highest selling books? The Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual. Let's make them buy them all over again by having a new edition of the game. So you do that, and my cry unto the heavens, which really meant the inside of the building at TSR and then later Wizards of the Coast, is, will you guys stop putting out new editions of the game until I finish carpet bombing the entire planet? I need to put source books for every bit of the planet. Yeah. And just as with Dragonlance, and just as with Earth, and just as is the same with the realms, what's on the other side of the globe? Oh, well, there's these few conflicting products, and we've said these few things. Yeah, I want a detailed map. That I want a topographical map if I'm hiking, or I want charts with nautical depths and rocks if I'm sailing so I don't sink my ship. I want that level of detail over the entire globe, and then, and only then, you can have a new edition of the game. But oh no, our VP, whatever, marketing wants a new edition of the game now. Yeah, well, you just let me put this source book out, but no. And so that happens over and over again. So the Time of Troubles was an idea I floated in Dragon 54 when I did Down to Earth Divinity. I don't come up with those titles. I called it Gods in D&D, One Dungeon Master's Pantheon, and that One Dungeon Master's Choices. And they took all that away. Oh, that sounds like a master's thesis. Go away. And just called it Down to Earth Divinity. But in that, I said, okay, if you screwed up as a dungeon master and you gave some character a plus 17 singing sword, and now he's killing gods, and you want to take it away from him, your carte blanche explanation is a God's War, a Time of Troubles, where suddenly you can't get spells from the gods because they're fighting each other. And they're busy, and everything's changing. And when you come back and he draws his plus 17 sword, it's a hilt and there's no blade. And the magic's gone and everything just changed. Ha ha, back to square one. That was why I put that in the article. And they seized upon that because they were all Marvel Comics fans. And they read Marvel Comics, and every 50 issues, Ragnarok came around in Thor and changed everything.
Yeah.
That was the reset in the comics. So they were going to make it a big Marvel event, Marvel-ish event, to change the realms because they were changing it, the addition of the game, and assassins all had to go away, and all the other changes they were going to make. So they, at the same time, they were going to simplify my pantheon of gods and change things. So at least they came up with an in-game reason for it. So the Time of Troubles was my fault, but I wanted it as a campaign reset for individual DMs, not a way to pooch the published realms. The other two, the Spell Plague and the Second Sundering, I wasn't involved in the Spell Plague except to write novels afterwards. I was brought to the Secret Summit to work out the Second Sundering and write the capstone novel. That Bob writes the first, I write the last, everybody else writes the ones in between. But I would never have done either of them left to my own. I'd still be carpet bombing the world. 30 and 40 years later, until I died of old age, I would be covering the planet, so you had a complete detailed planet. And the later editions would tend to be higher campaign level because all those years of play, I'd have worked out, okay, you need this for high level players. You need this to challenge their characters. You see, the Home Realms campaign did what TSR called Planescape, and Jeff and I started with Manual of the Planes. We did that right away at the beginning. That's the thing about the Forgotten Realms. It's just one of the alternate prime material planes. A real world Earth is another. Earth of Greyhawk is yet another. Kryn of Dragonlance is yet another. And any fantasy settings I wanted from my reading, all these fantasy classics, like Middle Earth, for instance, were just other prime material planes. And we were plane hopping all the time. They thought that was a really cool idea, but they deep sixed that article in lore and said, we're going to make an entire game line out of this. Here you go. So I'm responsible. It's my fault. So there you go. Very long-winded answer to
No,
that.
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of
Yep.
people in chat are like, "Wow, that's great
Yep.
background." So,
Yep.
just for my own personal edification here, Baldur's Gate 2, which I loved, which is in the 90s, was that post Time of Troubles, pre Spell Plague? Can anyone tell me that computer? Because I got a feeling like that Joaquin was dead god at that time, right? Is that true? I just want to find out that what era I was playing a computer game in.
It's very vague because
Okay.
Ball Spawn, remember? Ball
Yeah.
Spawn are around, and that is a thing that has to do with the Time of Troubles. The Dead Three, Bane,
post.
Ball,
Okay.
and yeah.
All right. I knew you'd know. Because it was a great, still the best one of all time.
You see, it's very easy from my point of view. I'm lying shattered in the middle of the street, and I'm looking up trying to get the license plate of the car that just drove over me at high speed, and say, "That was Baldur's Gate 2. I'll remember you."
Because it was second edition rules and stuff. It was great.
Yep.
It just, yeah. All right. Long-winded's okay. Jolly Button.
Should we just do a little quick recap of the Greyhawk ages, because there are not that many, so to speak. The way I've categorized it is, we have if we start in the 580s, where 580s, 590s, I call it the Age of War, from the Great Kingdom, and from the war broke out in 580 something, and so 580s onwards. I'm in 599, and it's still the aftermath of the wars with IUs and stuff is still going on. So in my campaign, I call it the Age of War, from when the Great War broke out in 580. Before then, I have the Age of Empire. That's when the Great Kingdom was the dominant force. Yeah, and that is from roughly, the Origian started taking over the continent roughly about minus 300 CY. And so that's where I have the early start of the Age of Empire, when they started to build. They had their various kingdoms, and then they unified it around minus 100 something, 110, 115, something like that. But they took it over, and then it held until 580 when it fell apart. So that was that I have the Age of Empire. Before then, you had before the Origian the Great Kingdom and the Origian taking over the Flanese, you had the Age of Cataclysms and Migration. That was the twin cataclysms, and when you have all the changes and people moved and so on. That's from roughly about minus 1500 CY to about minus 300 CY. That's the Age of Cataclysm and Migration. Before then, now we're getting into my history, because that's as far as it goes in published history. Those are the only published ages that they are, basically. And then I go to what I call the last winter, because I changed the climates. During the Flan era, before the Cataclysm stuff, it was cold, much colder, and the Flan was isolated. So that would, the Thornwood Gap and stuff were iced over, and the Origians and the Sul, they lived west somewhere, and the Flan was kind of different. And I have that from minus 5,000 to minus 1,500 CY. And then before then, I have the second summer age. That's from roughly about minus 20,000 to minus 5,000. And that is the age where I put the original Sul Empire. That was up in the north, an age of summer, so to speak. And I'm writing
25,000?
No, 20,000 to 5,000
wow.
Minus, yeah. Yeah, so it's about 25,000 years ago. That's where I have the original Sul Empire, and I'm trying to write the story of how that came to, because I wanted a story that came. I want the situation things to pile up, so when you get to the Cataclysm and Migration, it should make sense. So I just try to write a story that take my campaign to what we know, so to speak. So explain what the heck happened to get us to this point, so to speak. That's what I'm trying to explain. And I want to do a map of each of these areas, and then and I also try to write in what happens to the dragons, the elves, the dwarfs, the gnomes, and even the halflings. I want them in the story, so to speak. So, and then when you go back early on, then you have interesting things like aboleths and other things that have been intelligent and so on for millennia, so to speak. So that's why I want to go back. So that's my project that I think will take probably about 2 years to write it up. I have the basic outlines of these ages, and I made them the second summer age and the last winter, because there is a previous one of each, at least one, and so I just keeping them open. And these are names, working names, so to speak. So that's.
And
but that's
takes it seriously.
Yeah.
Ed,
Oh yeah, I take it very seriously. Too seriously. I overthink this. Yeah.
Halflings are all killed off Troy now. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So no, that's the right way to do it. You have to treat it like it's real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to first write what actually happened, and then hide that, don't show it, tell anybody, not showing it, and then write the mythos stories, meaning what is the Soul myth of this? What is the Flan story? What do the elves say about this and stuff? But me as a DM, I need to know what actually happened.
Yes.
And then I need to kind of fuss that up and tell what stories do each of these group tells. What's the halfling story of where they come from, and their creation story, and their story of their gods and heroes and stuff. So yeah,
that's cool. I do it a little differently, Ed, and this is how I do it. So for example, I see almost all of these in this chart as momentous events in the timeline, pre when you're supposed to start adventuring in 576.
But Jay, there is a cool lead in these numbers you see there. That's where I took this from, because these calendars tell you a thing, because a calendar usually starts at year 1 with something. Right. Exactly. Right. And when you look at this, you realize that there are Soul calendars and Elven calendar. They go back 7,000 years.
To be there for,
exactly.
That's so
and that's why I put there were momentous things happening in their cultures at those times back in, and that's why I got to my times here, because I looked at those numbers and simply backtracked and say, okay, the elves did something 6,500 years ago, and then because that's when they invented their calendar, so to speak.
Yeah, there's the difference between the human perspective, where, well, we can't really trust what happened that long ago because these priests, they tell us lies, sort of thing, and none of us are alive. But you also have aboleths, elves, and dragons whose lifespans are long enough they could say, wait a minute, because I was there.
Yeah, exactly. You have to go 5,000 years back before the dragons don't know what happened and stuff. Yeah. So and they might have written down sources they do trust. There might be a dragon scholar somewhere that knows what happened 20,000 years ago,
right,
or something like that. Or maybe one of their earlier generations screwed up and wrote something different just because they wanted to tell
to mess story. With people. Yeah. And that's what Candlekeep is for. All these monks. But it says here, you would trust that, would you? Well, let me show you where it says here.
And that comes another thing, meaning also in a fantasy world, how much do you want? Meaning, are there a fossil record, for instance? Can you go out as an adventurer and dig in the mountains and find these old skeletons and old minerals and magic residue of a war and stuff like that?
But we know in the official D&D thing that you can. The teeth of Delvernar, the whatever, we have magic items that tell you, yes, you can take relics from the past. Fossilize this, and so they are around.
No, and that's the point. I'm going to leave the ancient history. Jay. No, Anna, you're fine. This is a great discussion. I'm going to leave the ancient history to Sam Weiss and Anna and anyone else who wants to do it, right? But for me, I'm going to incorporate right here, where Rise of Horn Society, Humanoids Take Pomars, where this Hateful Wars era goes. And that's what your group, Ed, is trying to find relics from that and trying to find what happened to the prince and the weapons. And Luke Gygex's character got one of the swords, right? So I am here, right? And that's as far back as I am going to go. I'm going to go because it's right in the area that we play. So
that's a perfect thing to call back to what we were talking about at the beginning. The difference between the mythic tales that are told and the truth. The more we wander around the Lort Mills and find relics of the Hateful Wars, the more we are unwittingly, or maybe not caringly, but we are laying bare more and more the truth of what actually happened in the Hateful Wars as we, empty this dungeon, fight this undead find this treasure. We are, in effect, archaeologists.
That's it, and that's how so, gosh, I don't want to sound I don't want to make this sound arrogant. I want to bring Greyhawk's story and lore when Ed's playing. That's why I do. You know what I mean? I want Ed, because I know Ed is the level of detail. I can never bring, Forgotten Realms. I mean, I'm doing one smidget of a Greyhawk lore, but I appreciate what has been written for Greyhawk, and I want to share that.
Yeah,
and who better to share it with than Ed, right?
Yeah.
And Anna and Eric Boyd playing the game, and Eric Mengi and Tony.
Yep.
And everybody who watches, who makes this possible. It's so much fun, and to share it and come up and.
But that people like that, the two Erics, Eric Boyd and Eric Mengi, know that, like us, people like that are appreciating the lore. They're appreciating the history. They're sitting there at home looking into their computer, but they're going, I feel like this is real around me, because in this adventure that is unfolding in front of us, Jay is giving us the history of the place. It feels real. Know that we're going to appreciate that. We're not going to go, but how many hit points does it have, and how much XP do I get for killing it? We don't care. We're here for the
unless it's an Ed monster.
Thank you.
Like a bleeder.
A
Gary Con. Woohoo! All right, so wow. All right, Ed. Let's give us. It doesn't have to be one of those. Give us an event. Maybe here. Let me put this up. I'm gonna try and jumpstart the conversation here. If I can find what I thought I. Give me a second, everyone. I don't want to crash the stream. I thought I had it popped up here. Maybe I closed it by accident. Let me check.
This is where he pushes a button.
Don't hit the wrong button. Give us this. Give us a lore history, something momentous, because I know I have all faith in you, with the Harpers.
Oh, boy. Well, then. Momentous. Well, there's the Harpers of Twilight, the original Harpers.
Okay.
There's the Harpers. Then there's the Moonstars that split off from the Harpers under Kelvin and Laryl, because they were trying to do things differently. They were disagreeing over ways, not means. And then the Harpers as they are now. And the modern Harpers are sort of like a resistance movement or a terrorist group with cells, meaning there is no overall hierarchy. There's a deliberately diffused hierarchy of cells that speak with each other, and each cell has a Harper minder who comes around to them. But if you scrabble that Harper minder, you don't get the hierarchy of the entire organization, because they're not built that way, which frustrates the heck out of most kings. It frustrates the heck out of the Zentrim, the Red Wizards, because Zastan's going, go torture me a Harper and we'll find out all about. No, you won't, because they don't know, because they do things on their own. And if you're not familiar with the realms and are trying to get a headcanon for this, it's like Aragorn in the early parts of Fellowship of the Ring. He's this mysterious guy who strides out of the dripping rain with a cloak wrapped around him. And Gandalf knows what his past is and all about him. The hobbits don't. And neither do they in Bree. They just know he's this weird old guy who, goes around and it's just like everybody in the setting doesn't understand Tom Bombadil. That sort of stuff. And that's the key to making the Harpers work. Now, the other thing about the Harpers is the Harpers think that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, tall poppy syndrome. Anybody who gets to be too powerful a ruler, they will start covertly working against that ruler. Not because they dislike the ruler, but because they think that kings or any sort of ruler, I'm, not gender specific and not title specific. Any ruler that gets to be too powerful starts to get funny ideas, like starting an empire. And they always involve killing a lot of people, consuming a lot of resources like crops, so there are famines, riding and ruining a lot of farmland. So a lot of nonsense will go on that affects the common people. So they want to stop that So the tall poppy syndrome applies. The Harpers will move against you whenever you're too powerful because they want everybody down at about the same power level. So nobody will get dreams of empire and nobody will want to invade their neighbors because the king may say, I hate and loathe those people next door, but I don't have the money to raise an army. And if I do, then this other guy who hates me in the other direction will attack me from the rear while I'm invading that guy. So I just can't do it. I'm going to have to do diplomacy and get along with them. And the Harpers go, good. That's what we wanted. Because they want the common people to have the best lives possible, because that's how a rising tide lifts all boats and everybody gets better over time because you have relative peace and prosperity. That's the secret to the Harpers. And as a result, any powerful ruler, and this is a great thing because quite often in a role-playing campaign, you can have your adventuring group are sort of like bandits or rebels, like they're wandering around the countryside with weapons doing stuff. And usually if you come into an area that's strongly governed with law and order, they either want you dead or gone, or they want to co-opt you. Well, if you're going to stay here, adventurers, we need you to go kill that dragon over there. You got to do something for us. Otherwise, it's your necks or the border. So you end up being co-opted by that. And that's where you could come into conflict with Harpers because they're going, okay, that king's getting too powerful. That local city lord is getting too powerful. That robber baron is getting too powerful. We're going to quietly work against him. And of course, the Harpers, part of the quietly work against him is your adventurers. We're not going to buy your loyalty. We're going to use you. We're going to manipulate you. And hopefully, because you're stupid adventurers, you won't even notice this. And of course, when you think about it, if I'd been writing the original Conan stories, yes, he's a noble savage. Yes, women tend to hurl themselves at his ankles, and every wizard he meets is evil and has to be chopped up. But I would have been writing a heck of a lot more stories where just plain merchants are saying, hey, this barbarian's like a loose cannon. Good. Let's turn him and fire him in that direction.
Right.
I would have had story after story like that. And that's how you can use the Harpers in your campaign. They are manipulating the adventurers into doing this and into doing that, and pretending to be their friends, and may even be their friends, as in the Harper knows you're going to get bloodied. If you go up against the Perytons or the Wyverns or the Illithid that's hiding out, you're going to need healing afterwards, and maybe one of you is going to need raising. And the Harper will come along and pick up the body of the dead guy and take him to the temple and get him raised. And you go, what a nice guy. The Harpers are our friends. And the Harper's going, good. The moment he's raised again, we can send him off in this direction. Anyway, and yes, it doesn't hurt when what you have on the screen now, when Harpers look like that lady. Like,
yeah, that's
hey, it's Robin Hood, only beautiful and female.
That's great. So two comments back to that. Someone said this in chat, and I agree 100%. Sounds like Mordenkainen, if he's over in Forgotten Realms, would get along with the Harpers real well, because Mordenkainen seems to do the same thing in Greyhawk.
He would love the Harpers, and in fact, he does. As in, I wrote a short story which they wouldn't publish because they said, okay, after we have used you to join the worlds, as in Mordenkainen goes nuts, Elminster nurses him back to health, mental health, and keeps him out of trouble until we don't want you crossing the streams with actually writing fiction, Ed. But I actually did a thing where Mordenkainen is getting bored, and he's saying to Elminster, you know, the equivalent of, I'm paraphrasing here, no offense, old mage, but are you going to be my keeper for the rest of my life? Because I don't need to be kept. No offense, but I don't need to be kept by the likes of you. And Elminster says, yeah, I figured you'd be getting stir crazy about now. So why don't you go to this place and talk to this beautiful lady here, and you may see things differently, and I'll get out of your hair. If you need me, call me. And in 6 months, you can find me on top of this mountain. I'll be there for one night when the moon is full, if you need to clock in again. But in the meantime, go and have fun. And Mordenkainen will go and talk to this Harper lady, and think, oh, I can get into this mischief, and I can end up looting this vault, which is full of spell books. Thank you. As in, oh, the old mage set me up for this. Well, I hate being set up and being used like a puppy dog, but he's bribing me with these spell books. So let's go and do this adventure and get the spell books, because I want some of this magic that I'm not familiar with from this new world. And if I take this back to Greyhawk, and I am going to take it back to Greyhawk, I will now have all these spells that nobody else knows. So he's going to go on those adventures. Yeah, well, yeah, except you. Yeah.
Against you.
Yeah.
That's great. No,
yeah.
So that makes total sense. So I have to ask, is that a cutting room floor story where they still own it, or do you have it? That story.
That they still own it.
Oh,
however,
man.
wait a minute. I can take the events of that story
and paraphrase
and write a new story at some point in the past. The problem is we can't legally publish fiction because of Wizards of the Coast has an outstanding contract, an ongoing contract with Random House. They are the exclusive distributors of D&D fiction, which is why you can't put fiction on DM's Guild. However, the way around that is to put short snippets of fiction in a non-fiction thing. So, if, for instance, if we do new Mordenkainen spells, and then we put 2 or 3 paragraphs of him talking with Elminster, or this nice Harper lady, and it's like that new Harper lady said, "What did you do? What just happened?" as she watches this castle tower fall over across the valley, and Mordenkainen says, "Oh, nothing. I was just trying a new spell. I'm sorry, dear. You came along at the wrong moment." And then she looks down at this naked Mordenkainen because he's just stepped out of the bath, and she says, "Evidently." And he says, "Yes, this was not deliberate. Hand me that robe, will you? And then please turn your back for a moment." "Oh, because you want to get dressed in privacy?" "No, because I need to cast another spell and wipe out the next tower, and I don't want you to watch me doing it." Sort of thing. So I could write another one like that, and that would be a way of doing it. But I don't have enough time at the moment because of all these things I promised to write to come up with enough new spells, because I want quality new spells that people will use in their campaigns, try to come, and then you stick the fiction with it as dressing, like the headers I used to put in novels where there'd be a little quote from a whole a play in the realms, or a poem in the realms, or the lyrics to a ballad or a holy book, and I could sneak it in as a header. That's what I want to do, and if we can do that, we can bring more of it. But I'm sort of hoping that when you start publishing Greyhawk stuff, we'll get a sort of what Mordenkainen's doing now, and then I could just dovetail as to how he got there, how he got back into the setting, awesome, with his brain patched together again, and then you decide, or any DM decides, but you're going to be deciding it for what you write. What is Mordenkainen's mental outlook now? And that brings us to the other thing you should always do with important NPCs. What's their aims? What's their worldview right now? What do they want if you encounter them?
So, Ed, I'm going to link something to you in our general Forgotten Realms Greyhawk game chat, and that is the Visions of Greyhawk publication that's fanon. I just linked it in so you can look at it in the future. It's under that. Okay. Take a look for the first article. I got one going in the second one. I'm thinking maybe down the road when there's plenty of time and stuff, we can talk about and collaborate on something with
that.
Sure,
love to.
There you go.
That would be so much fun. That's the sauce. That's awesome. The sizzle.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Troy and Norker and Sam and everyone else participating in that. There we go. We got a commitment from Ed down the road. All right. That's awesome. Second question on the Harpers. Did they do a good job in the movie?
Okay.
He was like a fallen Harper.
Yes. And the Paladin was like saying, you can redeem yourself by doing this. And you will redeem yourself because I know your inner self when you're denying it. You're gonna do the right thing. The thing that it's very hard to show you the realms in a zippy 2-hour movie where
Yeah.
the main characters are being like a typical band of adventurers sitting around a table in a D&D campaign. They are doing anything but what the Dungeon Master wants them to do. And the problem with showing the Harpers as they really are, it would take away some of the agency from the characters, because the Harpers would be the thing where Edgin and his crew are entering Neverwinter, and they're screwing up, and they're having this peril and so on. The Harpers would be just like distracting the guards for 3 seconds. When the druid is fleeing and doing all that shape-shifting, the Harpers would be strolling past, getting in the way of the pursuers. Just nothing else. It's like they were living their own lives till that moment. It's like, oh, she's coming around the corner. Let's step into the path of the Red Wizard. We'll just be in her way for 5 seconds. And we're just doing our thing. We're not fighting her. We're not even looking at her. We're just trading, or we're pushing a handcart, or we're guiding our mules to the, but we're just in her way for 5 seconds. And then another Harper that's the Harpers. They're just dovetailing. So Edgin doesn't even know he's being helped.
Okay.
But we, the audience, would see that he was being helped. So that stuff he was doing, where he's playing that ballad to distract the guards. Remember that? And it starts to go wrong. There'd be some other distraction at that moment provided by the watching Harpers.
Right.
And if you saw that 2 or 3 times, you'd be going, what the heck's going on? And it's impossible for to tell the newbie what is going on. But the only movie way it could do it was the camera would have to pan in and see a Harper pin on some shoulders.
Yeah, and the nuance of that would have been genius. You're giving, it would have been genius.
Yeah. I would love to see a thing where some woman is sobbing and she's saying, "You must help me, my baby's turning blue. Look, and then everybody runs in, and the guards run in to help, and then it pans in for a moment on a Harper pin that's holding her bodice.
Right, it's all
together, and you go, wait a minute,
That's so great.
Again, I do work in movies now, so I think about some of the visual stuff. But yeah, there are ways of doing it. But I appreciate that they can't cram everything into a 2 hour.
There's so many considerations they have to take for they have to keep a broad audience happy, not only diehard gamers, but a lot about the casual viewers too.
Yeah, but you know what I would love to see? What we saw with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Here's the theatrical cut. And if you buy the Blu-ray,
you get all the extended.
Then you get the extended cut, another hour or half.
Yeah, another hour.
So good.
A 2 hour movie turns into a 4 hour movie.
Yep.
So the true fans will say,
Yep.
I don't care if the pacing goes to crap. I don't care if we spend 4 hours wallowing in this world. I want it. I want every second of it. Do not rob me of any of it. Whereas the casual person, and of course the person owning their movie theater wants bums in seats every 2 hours. Move them out, put a lot of bums in seats. So they have to keep the runtime down. I would love to see a D&D movie that gives us the long version, and then all the casual moviegoers who don't give a flying about the realms would say, well, that's slow and plodding. And all of us Realms fans are going, but we got to see this, and we got to see that, and we got to see the other. Yeah, you give me more, give me more, give me more.
Right. Right, and
that's the way to do it.
Easter eggs create chatter too on boards and stuff, and they go, "Oh, did you see this?" I mean, every single new Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode's got Easter eggs in it, and they always, so which is really cool. So wow, that was a great one. I knew you'd have some good Harpers. Momentous. I did not know any of that. I did not know that there was all different sects and SECTS.
Yeah, cells here, cells there, decentralized, and they're all about everybody should be about equal. Okay. So they're not. They don't hate people like Zastam and Manshoon and so on. They just think people like Zastam and Manshoon must be stopped,
right? Because
they're trying to be tyrants. And whenever you have somebody trying to be tyrants, they're trying to oppress some people, gather power unto themselves, and the Harpers are immediately in your way. Because, hey, the common people have to pay higher taxes. The common people had their crops trampled by your soldiers or seized by your soldiers. How dare you treat common people like that? which I think is a great thing. It's the old. Okay, it fits very well with the American and the Canadian viewpoint, which is,
hey, Casey.
yeah, I'm just a normal person, but there's nobody better than me. Don't give yourself airs. Don't think you're better than me. It's that
Yeah.
the people we choose to respect, usually our elders or, elder family members, they are our gods. The people we respect for what they've done, like if you're a fan of this game or you're a fan of this writing, you can put them on a pedestal, but you react very negatively to politicians and so on who use power badly. Everybody's on trial. It's like, we've given you this power. You better use it wisely. You better not be corrupt, because we'll be gunning for you because you're not better than us. It's that feeling in the back of, we're all about the same. That's the Harpers. We're all about the same.
Awesome. Great one.
Sounds very Scandinavian. We have the
Yes.
law of Jante
Yes.
in Sweden, Norway, and Denmark and Finland. We have the law of Jante, and it's funny. It's like, don't believe you're anything. You're just as dumb as everybody else.
That's right.
And that's it, so to speak. And it's not up for debate. We know that's the case.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in it, you're not one of us, so to speak. That's very kind of Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Anna, let's give us a momentous event post 576.
Post 576.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here.
Give us something you want to talk about.
Well, first of all, we have the big event. There's like two giant events, but they're bundled up into one, so to speak. One is the rise of Ayus and his kind of all his plotting, and that led to the war. And the other one is the dissolution and the fall of the Great Kingdom. They're kind of bundled up into the Greyhawk Wars, but they're kind of two separate stories that are in, and it's, to me, it's interesting to separate them in some ways if you want to use them in a campaign, because you can take either of those stories and then take parts of those stories and then tie them into your campaign, so to speak. For my Rel Devin campaign, I dug into the fall of the Great Kingdom, and now for my Shieldlands campaign, I tie into the backstory of Ayus, the Bandit Kingdom, and the wars and what happened during it. And it's kind of interesting that there is so much talk, meaning the Carl Sargent that kind of invented the Greyhawk Wars and wrote about it From the Ashes and the Marklands and Ayus the Evil. And then you had Roger Moore that was trying to kind of, he wrote a kind of picked up the gauntlet in Adventure Begins and trying to tie it up and make it into a manageable setting again after everything has been trashed. But it's interesting that you go through all of this, but there is not much talk about what actually motivation. It's basically like a war report from the Eastern Front saying, oh, Stalin did this and Hitler did this, and then they went together and they made this secret deal, and then that happened and the Poles were run over, etc., etc. Meaning it's like a war. It reads more like a war report, but you don't get the backstory. Meaning, what was Ayus thinking? What did he had any accomplices? What were the Horn Society doing in this? Were they just run over and didn't know shit, and so on and so forth? And that is something that I think is the missing piece, because I think what Carl Sargent, I kind of liked what he wrote. In the beginning, I hated it, especially the fact that he dissolved the Horn Society and kind of made them go away. They were my favorite villains. Exactly. They were my favorite villains. And I was like, and it was, but to me, as a DM, it very much became, I was given lemons and now I'm turning it into lemonade. So thanks to Carl Sargent and that I didn't like what he was writing, but I had to somehow accept it, have turned into probably about 20 years of figuring out why it actually happened. And that has turned into me trying to make lemonade out of it. And I suggest you do that, meaning you read these things and you take it, you don't take it at face value, but you try to say, okay, it's not wrong, but there is a part of the story that this is not telling me. And that is, then you can do two things. You can find out secret motivations and stuff that can give you a secret sub-story. And you can also invent NPCs that make this happen that are not mentioned in the books. Meaning the books, they talk about basically the Greyhawk lore. You have the high ups, so to speak. You have Ayus and his top henchmen and so on. And then you have some bottom folks, meaning if you go to Hamlet, you have Elmo and Otis and these people that are the grunt workers of the great stories. But you don't have much in between. You have a few like Lareth the Beautiful and stuff. You have a tiny few. And what you need to do is you invent a couple of others and put in another echelon in between or two, and invent these people that take orders, give orders, and also have their own little agendas and stuff, and you kind of weave them into the story.
Thanks, man.
That I think is a way you can use the lore to as a kind of a framework to work on, so to speak, and don't try to contradict it. Try to explain and add. That I think is the way to do it. And it's taken me decades to get good at it, good enough that I feel that I can now weave campaigns that I think are fun and interesting, so to speak. And it's difficult, but it's fun. It's great fun to do.
And that's the thing that makes it feel real.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the first time, the setting did something that you don't agree with, and you didn't create as a dungeon master.
Yep.
But it's unfolding anyway. Oh, I guess this place is real and things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's even things you don't like can be a huge inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and
for example, Ed, in your books, you got a ton of great NPCs, and it's kind of lacking early on in Greyhawk. Sergeant's genius. If you go through from the ashes and you go through from this, look at this: villains to heroes. This all these new individuals, and I've used a lot of them, and so has Anna. That have been described. Probably adds to the PC list, NPC list, probably triples it, right, Anna? At least of all the names. And
definitely.
Yeah, because Carl Sargent and I corresponded by letters. That's how long ago it was.
John and crew, good to see you.
A back and forth at this point, and what he was trying to do here, and this is the tragedy of it, with Gary gone, Len gone, Carl gone, we can't ask them, why did you do this? Because their voices are silenced forever.
Yeah.
You know, this is why it's a good thing you have Rob Kuntz on and so on. Well, we still have him. But I can tell you, because I happen to know this one, because we wrote back and forth, because he was getting vilified at this point when he was, From the Ashes was coming out, and it was like, he's wrecking everything sort of thing.
Right.
And he said, I have to shake the setting up so that the company can write new adventures with a new direction. And one of the things I need to do is add to the Dungeon Master's toolbox of NPCs who aren't rulers, who aren't, I need more. And so he's deliberately adding to your toolbox there. And that's stuff that I've been doing in the realms since the beginning of the published realms. You have to give the Dungeon Master tools, because and this was my criticism, the original Greyhawk product, the very first one, because it came out of Sandtable Wargaming, you knew all about how many troops
always said
that somebody could
the
field.
rulers, classes, and that was it.
Yeah. And then it's like, but what do they eat?
Right.
And there's silence, and but what do they trade? Oh, the Pomage this, the Horn Society that.
Well,
I don't want to know. Yeah. But I don't want to know about their troops, because I can make that up for any battle I want to. Yeah. But I need to know why. Why are they attacking?
Yeah. But you're right. When it's so tied into the wargaming roots of D&D that was still fresh in the memories of and in the how they played back then, I can guess. And that really shines through in the early Greyhawk products.
Oh yeah.
If you compare that to the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer that is like 30 years later, that is a huge difference, because it's a completely different game played for very different purposes, so to speak.
Yeah. My first Gen Con was Gen Con 8. It was in Horticultural Hall. So a tiny room by comparison.
Well, yeah, it's like 4 living rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And it's full of sand tables and improvised sand tables that aren't really sand tables. They're like ping pong tables. with war games set up on them, in the same way that Jay puts his terrain on a flat table.
Yeah.
And by the time he's finished putting the terrain, it looks like a gorgeous battlefield. There were some of those, and everybody was standing around, and they had tape measures. They had burst circles for the Second World War games made out of coat hangers. Mm-hmm. They had slide rules and stuff. They
whatever
had
it took back then.
Yeah, but I mean, that was wargaming to them. You fought on a table. You fought with troops. You fought with minis, and they were doing that. So yeah, I walked in, and that was Gen Con 8, and a bunch of guys with beards, or a bunch of thin guys who didn't have beards, were standing around in a room. That was Gen Con 8. So yeah, it was wargaming. Mm-hmm. But to me, as a world builder, it's okay. Yeah, what do they eat? Where does the trade come? You know, they eat X, and they poo this. As a result, where does the poo go? And, you know, in the early days, you know, I'd say that, and Gary would look at me and said, yeah, where's the adventure in that? And I said, Otyug. And he goes, yes.
The wonderful Otyug.
Yeah, but in that way, it's that's part of the rich history of D&D, because still you can play D&D as a semi-war game, or you can play it as a theatrical exercise, and it can still be D&D, so to speak. Meaning you can have
mix,
different,
Yep.
That's awesome. Good one, Anna, on that. You know, that's one of my. You know,
let me just make one. I'm going to take an NPC example of how I did it. I created an NPC called Glushnag the Mighty. He is he is a hobgoblin, and he's the leader of the Gensal hordes. And the Gensal hordes are not mentioned, but what is mentioned in I Use the Evil and the Marklands is that there are hobgoblins that are taken up hold in the Shieldlands, and then they kind of showed it, and then I took from the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, they made a simple map, and they put Gensal, that was where the hideouts. Okay, so I know they're hobgoblins and Gensal, and then there's the second. So then then I invent their war leader, so to speak, and I made him a spear master and so on and so forth. But I wanted him to have more characters, so I read further into the story in I Use the Evil, and then you had Wayne and you had Vakunis, who were plotting against Ayus and weren't sure which side they were on. So what they did was and they kind of sent. Now I'm starting to read between the lines here. So they didn't trust Glushnag, because the hobgoblins came from Horn Society. So Glushnag is a Horn Society warlord originally, so to speak, and so he was sent by Ayus to Shieldlands and to be the spearhead against the Shieldlanders in Critwall. But then we have Wayne and the Vakunis, who come from a different breed, meaning they are the part of Ayu's machinery, so to speak. They don't trust this kind of warlord that goes around with a spear and talk to his war buddies and so on. He's not loyal to Ayu, so he don't trust him. So Glushnag, he's lawful evil, and he loves his troops, and he wants his troops to love him. So he raid as much as possible, and he gives all the treasure to his troops because he wants them to adore him, so to speak, and he wants to show off. He's a showman as much as anything. So he's like bare-chested and have this big spear. But he's now smart enough to realize that, Wayne and Vakunis are not playing in the same team as me. So he's starting to realize this is kind of, I'm sitting here between. I have them in the back, and I have the ones. So he's starting to do what a lot of other powerful people do. He start wheeling and dealing with power by himself, and there you have the kind of the backstory starting to grow. He realized that I have a few thousand hobgoblins who are loyal to me only. That's a huge resource, and I want them to be loyal to me, and I don't want to send them to death because of someone else. We should only die because we need to, only if it's glory and honor to us, not to anybody else. And that is his motto, so to speak. And then I started playing with it and started saying, and Wayne and Vakuni said, and then the player characters killed Vakunis. But there you have it, how you can take a little bit of lore and these little nuggets, hobgoblins, Gensal, and the power struggle between Ayus, Vakunis, and Wayne, what they were doing, and place a new NPC within that frame that is already laid out in various little snippets. That's how I created Glushnag the Mighty, and then statted him out and gave him a portrait and stuff.
Getting bombarded here.
Yep.
Chuck, it must be feeling better. He's still
Okay,
in the,
good,
still in the
good.
hospital, though.
Yeah.
I have a surprise for Ed tonight.
Oh, please.
From Troller Games. Oh, at the end. As long as Chuck gets it to me, because Chuck was in the hospital as soon as I get it to me, we have a surprise for him.
Yeah. I can, real quick, I can just answer. I use a tool called obsidian.md. Go to obsidian.md. It's an awesome tool that manages information and stuff. Has tons of plugins for role-playing games and stuff. So obsidian.md and use that. That's my tool of choice, weapon of choice when it comes to that. So yeah.
Yeah. So that question: what happened to Al-Qadim, Muralad, Mastica? They're all part of it if you so choose. They're all out there, and then they are not. So they never were added in. There was all that going on. With Oriental Adventures too. There was all that going on. Chuck, oh my God, Chuck. All right, Chuck just woke up. He sent me over something he was supposed to send me this morning, but him being in the hospital. All right, so Ed, give me something momentous about, if you don't mind.
About what? What would you like?
The Seven Sisters.
Oh, okay. Those of you who have been reading between the lines know that the Seven Sisters are never really gone, even after they're dead. After Selûne is dead, Kalue is dead. Obviously, if your name ends in Ue, it's dead. But okay, they're never really gone. They're ghosts in the weave. They are weave ghosts, as in they can whisper in people's ears. They can whisper in their minds. They can serve Mistra, and they can go wherever the weave goes. And although this is ethically a bit dicey, if they are of the wrong alignment, they will be reluctant to do this. They can possess living bodies and get a body back, and they'll be in somebody else's body. But of course, they're taking over another sentient being's body, so maybe they shouldn't. So unless a sentient being has been reduced to a vegetable state or whatever, that's not something they should be doing. And of course, nobody will recognize them unless or until they use this new body to cast magic, to shapeshift themselves or cast an illusion so they look like themselves again. But you can be sure that they're not gone. Selûne is still there. Kalue is still there. People you might have thought are dead and gone, like the Srinshi, they're all still around. But they may just be voices in the weave, meaning the Dungeon Master can use them to whisper in the ear of a player character saying, is that really the right thing to do? Wouldn't it be better if you just checked behind the locked door first? So yeah, the Dungeon Master can do that. You can do it by passing notes if you don't want to, and then you can really mess with your players and add an entire new level of fun at the table. And that's the other thing. If you have a player character who wants to do wicked things, or say do the nasty and have offspring, right in the middle of the lovemaking, you have Selûne saying, interesting technique. I would never have done it that way. And of course so you're never alone. You think you're doing something in private or in secret or not seen. Hey, and the Dungeon Master says, well, this little voice says in your ear, oh no! So there you go. There's something about the Seven Sisters.
All right. So anything? So Troy's going to ask a question. I'm going to let you respond to this.
I'm just going to show. That's my portrait of Glushnag.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like. Yeah.
Nice.
Troy asked about is there any lore, aquatic timelines, or just the surface dwellers' history of events in your campaign? Do you have aquatic lore, Ed? In the realms?
Yeah. Stephen Shen gave us an entire gorgeous product called The Sea of Fallen Stars.
Okay.
In which he detailed everything going on in the inner sea, in the realms. And there was, of course, the Mel Odom writing the novels and the trilogy of novels, and we all wrote short stories to go in the anthology that went with it, where Iakovas is marshaling all the creatures of the deep all along the Sword Coast and so on. Threat from the Sea, it was called back in the day. So there's all of that history. And yeah, if you check the grand history of the realms, although it tends to concentrate on dry land, there's because of the Wormskull Throne and all those other things, all of the undersea history is in there too. But again, as Anna was saying earlier about Greyhawk, it tends to be a war report as opposed to why people did things, unless they are the rulers. It does tell you this ruler had this aim when he did this, but you don't get to see, okay, if you're just merfolk living in the harbor of Waterdeep, having to deal with the sewage flowing into the harbor from the entire city all the time, the stuff that doesn't get trucked out to the Rat Hills, how do you deal with that? And what's your life like? You know, we didn't get down to the nitty gritty, and that is a pity. But yeah, all of the aquatic history is in there. I recommend you check out The Sea of Fallen Stars by Stephen Shen. It's a gorgeous product, which they put out. Stephen Shen was staff designer, so they put it out, and then they promptly tried to forget about it because, hey, nobody cares. I care.
You do? Yes, absolutely. I can't wait till the end. I cannot wait to show all of you, because none of you have seen this yet. All right, Chuck. That's Chuck, by the way. Chuck from his bed, because he was so excited that was coming on. We have such a huge surprise. Wait till you see it. That's all I'll say. I'm excited. I was really upset about Chuck being sick, but then he couldn't get me over this, but now he did finally. So wow. So, and thank you for the second hype train. All right, Ed, something momentous you'd like to talk about. I've been probing, priming you. Do you got something one that you'd like to discuss within the recent history of your world?
Okay. We have these things called the Sundering, and then the second Sundering, and the thing we just did with the Sundering saga, all the linked novels, was the second time Abir and Toril passed through each other.
Okay.
And each time Abir and Toril passed through each other, they swap kingdoms, they swap races, they swap groups of people, all sorts of things. It's a carte blanche for the company publishing the setting to change stuff. I would love to delve into what it's actually like when things are passing through each other. Why it happened twice? Is there going to be a third time? Why does this do it? Does it oscillate? Is it like one of those things where the guy is taking his pocket watch and making it go tick tock in front of you? So is it going to rebound? And of course, we talk about this in real world politics. In a right-left, the pendulum will swing to permissiveness, and the pendulum will swing back to control, and so on and so on. Well, okay, is that the case? And if it is the case, gosh, look at what's on Anna's computer screen. Yum, yum, yum. But if that's the case, I want to know a little bit more about the mechanics, and I want a product that explores that, because I want to understand how planes move, how prime material planes move through each other, how it affects things, how you can get critters, sentient individuals, moved from one setting to another, perhaps unwittingly. What happens when this happens? All of that cool, fun stuff. That's what I'd like. Is there going to be a third Sundering? When's it going to happen? What's it going to entail? I mean, we had things like Tymancer coming into the realms from Abir, coming into Toril, the Dragonborn, and so on. All of that stuff. And yes, it's being used for out-of-game metagaming. It's being used for the company to put new things in. Tieflings this, and we're going to explore that. But it's like in setting, how does it work? How does it feel when things are passing through each other slowly? And it's sort of like I'm picturing it like Roger Zelazny wrote about the Amberites moving through shadow, as in, around this next corner there will be a tree. The tree will be leaning over the path. It will have a deep shadow. And as I pass through the deep shadow, the color of the sky will change and the constellations will change. Like they're adding and subtracting. That's literally what they called it. And they had the power to walk through shadow, from shadow to shadow. By doing this, I want to get to a copper sky, because once I'm at a copper sky, I know I will be in my destination. How can I get there? Okay, so that's how Roger did it. Okay, how is it in the realms? How is it in the D&D setting? And can it be used for seamless travel between Earth, Kryn, Athos, and all the other TSR worlds? You know, is this how you can like move around in Eberron, but end up in Earth or in Kryn? And if so, sell me the cool product that does that. You know, and we instead we had distractions. We had Planescape. We have Well Beyond the Witchlight. We have, you know, side things, the Feywild and so on. Okay, that's one way of walking through another intervening plane, but that's the thing I'd be interested in. Is there a third Sundering, and will it pass us through, and how do we do this? Because that's what I want for my own high-level campaign when I've played around the gaming table with the same group of people for 6-7 years, and I want some new directions, and I want an easy way to do new directions without having to create from the world from the bottom up. I want the game to offer that to me.
And by the way, there was a question out in the audience. Do you still play your own campaign?
Yep. Of course.
Yep.
Yeah, and I want to tie in, because the way I look at it, I try to invent my own fantasy biology, fantasy evolution, fantasy geology, meaning how do fantasy plate tectonics work?
Yes.
When the planet consists of the 4 elements, how do geology work in a fantasy world? Fantasy astrophysics, meaning how do the planes, how's the state of energy and stuff, so to speak. So I want to tie in. I take inspiration from the real world, and then I try to tweak. What if I tweak these laws and stuff a bit and add a fantasy touch to it? What do I get from it? So I can kind of, because it's simply how my brain works, because that way I can start thinking, oh, if these are the laws and the rules and the rules of the game, so to speak, then if I do this, then that should happen, and that can guide me in running campaigns. And then I need to come up with how the priests say about it, and the gods try to explain it, and the dragons tell their stories, and so on and so forth, so to speak. And wizards say that the school of magic ties into this principle, but the practitioners of it say, oh, no, this is how it works in our way of doing things, so to speak.
Yep. And folks, if you're watching this is the contact high of world building right here. This is what happens.
I love
all of us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think and also world building, it's important that if you want to world build for your own needs, you need to find out how your brain works, meaning how do you want to come at it? Do you want to come at it? I come at it from an almost scientific way of doing it, in an analytical phase, but you might want to come with the stories and stuff, and then you emphasize the stories and the drama and stuff, and I let the stories grow from the seeds of the setting, so to speak. But you can do the other way around. There's no right and wrong. The only right way is when there's fun stuff coming out of it that you can use at the game table. That's the reason we do this, so to speak.
And unless there's a reason in game for inconsistency, like magic, magical chaos, the wand of wonder, unless the one cardinal sin is it can't be inconsistent, because your players are grasping it. This is what happened last time.
Yeah, they will point that out. I did one mistake this time. I had an NPC that was misplaced, and they're like, "Oh, he wasn't there. Now he's here. Like, how the heck did that happen?" And it's like, so you need to be consistent because the players are scrutinizing you. Even if they don't know it, they can feel when something is not right, so to speak.
Yeah, and they did that in the D&D movie. The fat dragon, Thembershad.
Yeah.
They moved from one subterranean city, in which he was too fat to get away from, to another one. So how did he do that? So now, and you have to do what Anna was just talking about, because we know that our quote real world, our prime material, if it's the D&D prime material, is affected by the ethereal plane, the positive energy, and the negative energy plane, because of necromantic magic, undead, level draining, all that stuff. It's in the game, so it's not going to work precisely the way our real world is. How much you delve into that is the style of play at the table and what you want to concentrate on as a world builder, as a creative DM. But it's there. It's baked into the game.
And even energy, how energy works, meaning I have it that if there's enough negative energy, if you create enough undeath and whatever, that affects the whole world. Meaning that is the balance of energy. More liches, more undead, whatever, they start taking over the world. That makes it colder. The climate go colder, and it goes darker, and that changes how magic works and whatever, and eventually the whole thing might implode in and become like an abyss down there, so to speak. It actually affects the whole world. So you need to keep track of and hunt down these bastards before they grow too prolific. But the other thing is that they can't grow from the beginning. In order to create liches, you need to have people to make them from, so to speak. So that means that they need, so one side feeds off the other one. So there is like a circle of energy. It's just a matter of where in the circle you want to be in order to, or you want your world to be, so to speak. And so I try to bring fantasy physics into it. That is kind of fun that way. And I have it that the old Flan, when the Flan ruled it, it was an ice age, because there were so many Flan that they're witches or liches, meaning the rulers. They figured out that if I'm undead, and they embraced undeath as a way of staying rulers forever, and that became so prevalent that it affected the whole part of the Flanese back then, so to speak. That's when you have the age of a Serarak, and the Vecna was one of the latest examples of it. And there were many before that we don't know the names of yet, because there's no one to tell the tales, because everybody's dead and gone, so to speak, and you have Zunk and a whole bunch of others that we know of, so to speak. And that was the age of the Lich and the White and so on, and that was so prevalent that it affected the whole culture and the whole climate, so to speak. But that's just my world building that I've done in my campaign.
And I did that in the realms too, because Thay is forever attacking Rashomon, the land of the witches. And what they don't understand, why they always fail, they don't get the fact that the Rashemi are tied to their own land. They are sourcing the power of their own land. And Thay is magically powerful because of the Athora, this magical rock that's inside the Thaymount. And as they're invading this other country, they're getting farther and farther away from the Athora. And they're in enemy territory where the magic is rooted in the land, and they're going to have to be really supreme on the battlefield to ever succeed, because the Rashemi are drawing power from their own land. It is the magic of the land, and the land itself is resisting these invaders.
Yep. And there's so many dimensions you can play with. Don't try to play with all of them, but you should pick the ones that you like and have a basic idea of the other ones, and then forget about them for this campaign. But keep them in mind, because the things change, and then you want later stage that might be perfect to bring them up, so to speak. And also don't tell the players all. I'm spilling a lot of beans here. So my players don't watch this, because but then you embroil it in legend and myth and conspiracies and stuff like that, and always feed the players, meaning 1/3 truth and 2/3 1/3 confusion and 1/3 out blatant lie, so to speak, and then mix it up like that. So yeah.
As every politician knows.
Yeah, exactly. Meaning you need to, meaning look at how propaganda and spin, meaning you get perfect examples in the real world. Go look at stuff like that and then invent fantasy versions of them. What is the king that doesn't have an heir? What does he need to do in order to secure it, so to speak? And what kind of spin does he need to do? And that the resistance movement, what kind of stories do they want to tell? And the old vampire that is sitting there and getting grumpier and grumpier and so on, how does he want to communicate out his stuff? And the Nero cult, so to speak, they just murdering, that might be, how do they spread fear most effectively through the population and stuff? So how would they go about it? Not only murder people, but it's how, who, under, when, and where, so to speak. Those things are equally important, and that's why you might want, they don't want to do it in secret. They might want to do it openly and tell this them. Instead of murdering someone at night, they murder in mid-daylight and openly, and show themselves and say, we do it, we are, and so on. So cults don't always have secrets. Some of them are so obvious. They want to advertise their presence, so to speak, as a way of it. So look at how the drug lords of South America doing it, the IS and stuff like that. Look for horrible inspiration for your bad guys in fantasy, and make fantasy versions of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I got a question that I want Curtis asked early on, and I missed it. And so a lore question: did the later fall of Mythdraenor products fit your idea of what was early on the gray box set? Did I ask that right? It says, did the later fall of Mythdraenor products fit your idea of what was early on the gray box set? I guess he means this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's an adventure in that. The one adventure in that is set in the ruins of Mythdraenor.
Okay.
Yeah, the school wizardry adventure. Yes, they did match, because those, if you're referring to Chromancer and How the Mighty Are Fallen and so on, they were written by Stephen Shand, or helmed by Stephen Shand, in-house. And Stephen and I were by then very close friends and corresponding all the time. Yeah, there were weekly calls. This is pre-internet, and internet just starting, between me and Jeff Grubb, and then Stephen Shand was moving into Realms Traffic Cop, and then Julia Martin was moving in and sharing it with him. And they wanted to make sure. You see, here's the thing. I kept not accepting job offers from TSR because I had an established life in Canada. My family and friends were around me, and I hate to say it, but what TSR was offering me was less than I made in a badly paid public library job of a year in which I just met my wife in the public library. I was quite happy. I'm Canadian, so I've got free health care, blah, blah, blah. Why am I, throwing this all over to go and live in Lake Geneva? Because that was always a requirement. No, we need you here. As Jim Ward once said, we need you here under our thumb. So, that's a good way to,
that's a recruitment.
Yeah. Good recruitment ad.
Yeah. But I mean, they wanted to make sure that Loose Cannon Ed wouldn't say or do something that would put the company in hot water. So they were checking in with me all the time.
Yep.
And that was fine. So those Mythdraenor products are very much the way I wanted Mythdraenor portrayed. And of course, I wrote Elminster and Mythdraenor as the second Elminster novel, and was able to say, look, the elves are basically the same as corrupt, jaded humans. This isn't a human trait, it's a sentient trait. The absolute power corrupts absolutely and all the rest of it. They're going to be xenophobes like the Starim, who do not want any humans in Mythdraenor. No, we don't want those dirty humans, sort of thing. And I was trying to show that, you see, they're not that different. All the good and bad that we see in humans, we see in elves, we see in dwarves, we see in halflings, we see in gnomes. It's all at an individual level. They have different styles of culture, and the styles of culture are rooted in their lifespans and what they've already built culturally. So they will do and say things differently. They will have different attitudes. But underneath, there's the full range. And that's what I was trying to show. And Steve was reading my fiction and checking this with me and checking that with me. So yeah, and then other people like Elaine Cunningham were writing things like Moonblades, and we were putting them in, like dovetailing them in. And then Elaine wrote this marvelous novel called Evermeet, but Evermeet is half Elven mythology, the other half events that are fact happening in front of you. So we were trying to tie it all in to try to tell the history of a culture and warring cultures. And of course, the dwarves also have warring cultures. The gold dwarves don't get along with the shield dwarves all that well, you know. Anyway, yeah, it's all about piling the lore up. You don't have to use it all. A dungeon master who feels overwhelmed or their wallet feels overwhelmed buying all this stuff, you don't have to. At your gaming table, just use what you want. But we want to have done the work to put this huge tapestry in front of you. You can say it's the Bayeux tapestry. Say it goes on for you can walk along it for minutes to get to the other end. You don't have to walk along it. You could stop at this one scene you like and just play there.
Mm-hmm.
But we want you to know it's all been done.
Yeah,
we've done the work. It's here if you want it. Because I always feel like a normal Joe, if I am somehow involved in a gaming product that somebody is charging you money for, you should do some work to be worthy of that money and to take work off the dungeon master's plate, because we're all too busy in real life and you just want to play the game and you don't want to have to create stuff. Sometimes you want to create stuff. That's the fun. But what if you don't have time because, hey, the car broke down, or you need new tires for it, or you had a power failure and now you have to replace all the food in the fridge and freezer, all that daily stuff that happens. And hey, it's game night. Dang, they're all coming over. What do I run? Okay, we did the work. You paid for it. It's there. You can pick it up and say, oh, thank goodness these guys have my behind one more time and I can get through game night. That's what it's for. You don't have to use all the lore, but we want all the lore to be there and to be self-consistent, interwoven, so that you don't go, wait a minute, that makes no sense.
It's some prophetic stuff. And just also, Ed, just the level of amenability. I know a lot of others wouldn't be this way, but the level of amenability you have that other worlds, Mordenkainen's and other just with the Wizard 3 to cross over into your realm and back and vice versa, that makes it even more fun for It gives the DMs and players a lot more options, so they don't have to feel bad when I throw a flesh shiver spell against you and everyone's like, that's not Greyhawk. And I'm like, it is now.
It is now.
So,
yeah. The interconnectedness of all things. I guess it's Taoism and the Buddha. Everything's interconnected.
So I know we're getting up on time. Is it okay if we run just a little bit late, Ed? Is that all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Rock and roll. I like to hear that. So Anna, could you bring up something? You want to bring up something momentous? In that future era. I'm thinking of like Return of the Eight.
Dude.
Like,
please do.
I'll do one real quick here.
I've talked so much, so please do.
You're
the one that talked the least of us.
But that's okay, because I've been so overwhelmed with contacts and getting a surprise set. And I guarantee you, Ed, wait till you see this. You're going to be like shocked, because I know you know nothing about this. It is going to be not this, but coming up. So Return of the Eight. I think it's one of the most momentous, and this is Roger Moore. And I know Roger was on, and this is one of the most momentous adventures that was ever written. In my opinion, in the Greyhawk realm, an adventure, not a box set, but an adventure in itself. You're bringing back Tensor in this adventure. Sorry for the spoilers, everyone. You're bringing back a legendary character, and then other grand wizards are being added in. But without this adventure, Tensor stays dead, right? Unless you could say, oh, it just happened with another adventuring group. But I think Roger, and that's why it's on my Wall of Fame. It's really one of the only second edition adventures that's on my Wall of Fame. So just a wonderful, wonderful, and you get to go to a moon, so.
Yeah.
Great stuff there. And any thoughts? on return on my thoughts.
There's heraldry on the front page, and I haven't even seen that before. I've looked at that thing cover many times.
Right here.
Yes, yeah. So I need to nail down what that. I just saw heraldry and I just sewn in, and it's like, oh, I looked at that one and didn't see it. This is awesome. I'm going to I need to look at the adventure and figure out what the heck that heraldry is.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh my. Dale goes, don't worry, Living Greyhawk kills them off again. Who didn't they kill off, Dale? Come on. Everyone dies in Living Greyhawk. Yeah, they point fingers and people are shriveling, so, but that's okay. I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Kiddies, I have to tell you this.
Yes.
We're all going to die.
Yeah, exactly. One day or another, we're all going to end up in the box, But that would be my momentous. This is pre-3rd edition, pre-Living Greyhawk, post-wars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone go Rowdy the Traitor, Rowdy kills off Tensor and all that. Okay, but I like it that you as adventurers can do something about it. And that's kind of, also Vecna Lives is kind of that way too, but the premise behind that, where Vecna kills off the entire circle before this happens, is another thing. So people don't seem to die in Lord Gazumba's Saturday games. You know what? That's not.
I have.
Yeah, there you go. Garner just said that. Garner's, people do die.
Yes.
Remember, in old school, it's a lot easier to get raised. It's a lot easier to get. There's death door spells and all that. So, do you really want me to try and kill Ed off next time? Come on, Revelantar is a great character. I'm not here to. We're here to entertain. I'm not here.
Yeah, I don't want to die.
I'm not here to DM's crushing fist people. Oh my gosh, that's funny. That was really funny. But until then, but that'll be a Saturday night and 2 Saturday nights. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so Anna, give me 2 minutes to bring up something, because I'm old and I got to hit the restroom real quick. So
okay, well then, we have to bring up a couple of one momentous, I think, that you can play back and forth are the story of the Death Knights is one that I think Gary Julian have written about back and forth, and it's been added to, and I think that is one that you can play out. It's something that started several hundred years ago, and you have another character that is coming, NPC or monster rather, coming in, that's the abyssal maw that comes in, and that the Knight Protectors, they kill it, and after that they get corrupted by Demogorgon and turn into the Death Knights, and then you have the Death Knight. That's something you can spin on, so to speak. You can use it in your campaign. You have Kargoth and the other ones. Who are they loyal to, or can and there is also in Earth Journal, I forgot what issue, there is like, if the Death Knight won. Read that article too that Gary wrote, and then look at the two, and then start cherry picking, and there you have, I think, the embryo for an awesome campaign where you look into the Death Knights. And then you have the one that you should also look into if you want to use that lore, is the diabolical alliance with Ivid the Undying and his allegiance with Balsephon, or whatever he's called, and you can bring in whatever deviltry you want in, so to speak, and you can feed off that. And you have Grenell, and if you have like the post-war, when the fallen apart, if its regime is gone, and you have do Grenell or Overking Grenell, or however you want to title it, of the North Kingdom. And what about him and the Death Knights and stuff? There's interesting power possibilities. And Hextor are the Hextorians lawful evil vassals of hell or not? If they are, that opens up very interesting possibilities. And what if the Hextor is the herald of hell and Tiamat is the guardian of hell? There's interesting crossover possibilities here, and bring Death Knights and stuff in. You have an interesting mix of enemies that you can set the characters off in Nerl or some other little hapless little abode that can be run over by these nasties that come in, so to speak. And you can spin it in many different ways. What if Grenell, he's aging and he wants to live on, And what if he becomes the new Ivid that is very useful for some people down in the 9 pits of 9 hells, so to speak, and he's the master historian and so on? What if the Death Knights can you wrest their loyalty from Abyss and Demogorgon? What if you can't? What kind of interesting things come out of that? So yeah, so there you have an interesting soup of possibilities you can play with.
Are Death Knights in Forgotten Realms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all in Forgotten Realms now.
Yeah, what are the stories of the Death Knights in Forgotten Realms?
But you see, in the Forgotten Realms, the Death Knights have chosen another path entirely.
Okay.
They are prime movers behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
trying not to get seen in public doing evil things they do. They are manipulating other rulers, and they're manipulating people like the Zentarim. They're manipulating the Red Wizards, who are not in Say, but were the abandoned trade outposts when Say pulled in and Zastam changed his mind because there was something wrong with the mind he has. There's a lot wrong with it. Anyway, so yeah, the Death Knights are working from behind the scenes. They are literal kingpins, and which makes like a completely different style of it. And it's like, who's a Death Knight? Where are they hiding? Well, I can tell you that some of them are hiding out in Alm in some of the large cities, and some of them are in Kalimshan in the large cities, and there's at least one in the Tashalar, and Var the Golden, and Chesenta, Unther, and Mulhoran.
Yeah, there you go. Never said yet.
And by the way, Anna used a word that should be a trigger word for all dungeon masters and all gamers out there. When you hear somebody utter the word hapless,
yep,
go to full alert. And when you and in our real world, when you hear a politician say the word hapless, pay attention, because they're probably BSing you.
Yep. That was very intentional. I used the word hapless in that sense. Very intentional. So thank you for picking that up. Yep.
Phoenixie, who's one of the recovering individuals, said, didn't some of Zariel's men become Death Knights after her fall? Yes? Okay.
Oh.
There you go, John. Yep, Phoenixie. Good job. Yep.
This also shows the versatility of D&D in the game, where you can take the concept of Death Knight and you can spin it in different ways and use that idea of the Death Knights in various different ways when it comes to world building, when it comes to adventure building and execution and encounters and stuff like that. So that shows the versatility of the game itself.
The first time I ever mentioned Death Knights in the Home Realms campaign was a noble in Waterdeep being shocked upon the revelation that such and such a person was a Death Knight, and saying to their noble father, head of the noble house, "Why would you consort with such a person?" And he replied, "My dear, I need a wine critic I can trust." And they went, "What?" And all the player characters went, "What?" And then I thought, think about it. This Death Knight's been around. He's tasted the vintages. From this vintage goes to vinegar because it's so old. And he can tell you, oh, this one's at the height of its. Oh, this one is losing its body. And you're going, what?
So I was thinking when the Death Knight was invented in Fiend Folio, right? That was the first publication.
Yes.
Yeah. So someone told me that it was basically a monster that was created as a warrior alternative to the Lich. Is there something to that story, or do you know what the
White Dwarf, right? It was in White Dwarf.
Okay.
Yes, it was in White Dwarf magazine. Yes. And I'm trying to remember the.
Charles Strauss, not Charles Strauss.
They some of the stuff in there was a column in White Dwarf called the Fiend Factory.
Okay.
And some of them
sounds
were
awesome.
British dungeon masters were submitting things, and some of them were
That's where Fiend Folio comes from.
The Fiend Folio. And they were some of them were adaptations of things like the Rover from The Prisoner, I think that was in White Dwarf 8. They just adapted into D&D forms. Yeah, but yeah, I think it was to give you an awesome, powerful undead who was a warrior rather than a spell hurler.
Yeah.
Because you're always trying to challenge your party of adventurers with different things, so that they have to role play rather than try and recall what's in their books, or pull out their rule book because it's at the table and frantically flip through it. Oh, this one has 5+5 hit dice, and if we do this, that's its vulnerability. You want to shatter their heads out of that thinking and back into the game, so you have this awesome undead that it is not doing what they expect, so they can do things like they cast their anti-magic shell or whatever, and the thing just keeps coming at them, and carving them up. Hey, wait a minute, but a lich can't. This isn't a lich.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
It also reflects spells.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, but you see, everything that appeared in the official rules, I was putting into the realms. I mean, things I didn't like, the joke monster. There, somebody did a Dottie in White Dwarf because there was a mummy. Okay, let's do a Dottie. It's like, isn't that cute? Nice one joke monster. I'm not going to use it. But everything official about D&D, once the realms became the default D&D setting, everything official for D&D is shoehorned into the realms one way or the other.
Right,
So
right, yeah.
Then it's like, how do you deal with it?
Yeah.
How do you make it make sense?
You need to at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people are going to ask questions. You're like, well, you want to have an answer.
Yeah.
I understand that. All right, you all ready for this surprise?
Yes, we've been waiting.
I'm going to say the following to all of you who have done a CNC Kickstarter recently. I'm going to say this in the nicest way. Suck it, because I got this already. Okay? So, I'm just busting stones. Are you ready? Monsters and Treasures have aired after Winter Dark. Okay? All right? Brand new. It's not even out yet. So, let's turn. Oh, yeah. Come on. Let's turn to page 62. Ed, get ready. I'm getting down there slowly, slowly, slowly. This is under dragons. There's more dragons, more dragons. We're almost there. Ready? Here we go. Let me blow this up.
I've made the big time, folks.
The Greenwood Dragon, in honor of Ed. Troller Games has made you a dragon. Yes. Okay. So there you go.
Yes. I love it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
That is lovely.
Okay.
Now, this, can I buy this at Gen Con? Will it be out yet?
Oh yeah, it's coming out very shortly. I'll make sure that you get a complimentary copy from. Trust me, don't worry about it, Ed. Don't worry. Yeah. So it is. Yep. It is. Well, hey. I can't. I had nothing to do with the creation of it. I'm going to be honest there. But Chuck was so excited, and he fell ill in the hospital. He couldn't wait till tonight to do this, and I'm so happy he got it over to me. Yes, but you have been named a dragon type in this new month.
I love it.
Okay,
that's so cool.
There you go. So
and what are my powers? What do I get to do?
Let's see.
Exactly. What's the breath weapon? Yeah.
Let's take a look down here. Mature Greenwoods begin to mate. Let's see down here. They serve no master, are highly independent and thoughtful creatures, though possessed of a cruel streak few dragons share. Let's see. They do have.
It's a long text. It's like 2 pages.
Oh, it's more than that. The Greenwood is born with glands among its inner throat that offer a welcome home to several types of fungus. By the time the Greenwood is a fledgling, let's see. The spores. So your breath weapon is spores. The spores attach itself to living flesh, causing welts and blisters to crop up everywhere. Oh, anyone exposed to this dragon breath weapon suffers 1d6 points of damage per level of the dragon. There you go. Woohoo!
Wow.
Groovy, I did talk to him via text during the show now because he wanted to still get this over to me. But yeah, so there's some background history and air to them. Yes, so, and they do have some spell ability: Charm Human, Demi-Human or Monster, Obscuring Mist, Wall of Wind. So they do have some abilities here. They can mimic any sound it has heard before, from animal calls to human voices. So there you go. Neat.
Oh, that's a horse of a different color.
Yeah.
I like it.
So there you go, Ed.
That is so cool.
That is cool.
All
right.
So I'll let Steven, Chenault, and Chuck and the whole crew over there at TLG know that you saw this and are really excited, and you definitely will want a copy. And
I love it.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you. That is a delightful surprise. That's fun.
There you go.
Now, you see, I'm sort of a little disappointed. I'm not a beautiful dancing girl, but I'll take it. I'll take it that I'm a dragon.
Definitely, and I know they're so because I have a real good relationship with Troller Games, and they're real appreciative. And Chuck played in the game with you at Gary Con and all, and so wants to play again more and other stuff, and they really appreciate all their contributions because this community is tight knit, and so they're really appreciative. So I wanted to say thank you. Thank
you. That's fun. That's fun. Thank you.
Well, Troller Games, pleasure on that, and just note this will be out very shortly. This monster, and there's 3 books coming out in this Kickstarter, and that is one of them. So note that they are coming very shortly, and yep,
nice. I love it.
Yep. All right.
I love it.
Excellent.
Okay. Well.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. I knew it. Yes, Norker, they are on a roll, and I wanted to definitely show that tonight and say, hey, this is some of the cool things going on, and yeah. All right. Nice.
Hey, that's cool. Yeah.
I
get to be a dragon.
You get to be
a dragon.
And
I'm a dragon.
And you know one thing, Ed. Gary Con's not that far off, and you know what I do with stuff that I have in my hand.
Oh no.
I'll put Ed against a Greenwood dragon versus Ravalantar and his crew at Gary Con. I think we can do that. I think it's going to be a fun.
Okay, now I've got to read up on this.
Yeah, exactly. Getting spores all over you and stuff. It's going to happen 100%. So
I'll have to create a new spell called Slay Greenwood Dragon and have it
spore protection. So look, there's Chuck. Okay, cool. So we got a third giveaway. Let me just type this in. Everyone loved it. Loved it. Chuck just gave us a $25 gift certificate as well, so we got 3 giveaways. Okay? All right, you get your choice.
Nice.
Especially if Phoenicia or whatever, that'll help if you get that and you win overseas. So, this has been an unbelievable discussion tonight. Wow, what fun.
Fun.
See, I knew we just go off on a tangent a couple times, but that's...
Oh, yeah. That's life.
Yeah. No, Lomas. No, he's not doing his fall Gary Con, but he's going to be part of Virtual Con. No, they're not doing that Founders and Legends. They're doing I'll explain that during the shoutouts. There's a lot going on that's momentous. I know we scratched the surface on this discussion, but you learned a lot of stuff, like in depth, about the goings on and the thought process that Ed had, and Ed was. They ran with the spell plague and the sundering. I mean, they ran with it, and it's like, oh well, whatever happens at this point. But his world is so rich with other things, and I think Greyhawk has gotten from you may not love Sargent's work, but he added a dimension. He added a dimension to Greyhawk. Characters, and having
stories and stuff. Yeah,
and stories, and Ivy the Undying was never published, and it's one of the most
popular. Those source books, the Marklands, Ivy the Undying, and the Marklands, and I Use the Evil. They were fantastic. They were some of the best Greyhawk ever written, in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah. So for shout outs, Ed, what's going on? Are you working on any new books or writings or anything you can discuss? If not, it's understandable. I know you have a lot of NDAs.
I am working on a computer game for Spearhead, and I can't say much more about it than that. I have just finished the deep dive book for Athcliath.
Oh, wow.
The quarter of the city that is closest to the sea, and includes the palace, and it also includes the worst slums and the rich people's blocks. And we'll have to at least 2 more deep dives in the future, but we'll do the 10th city next. And if you are at Gen Con and playing, I will have an adventure there in which you attend a revel thrown by a rich Norse guy in Athcliath, and it's called a revel amiss in Athcliath, but our aim is getting better. So as you can tell, something's going to go wrong. And the other stuff I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about.
Is Mr. Valkaskis going to be at Gen Con too?
Yes, he is. He and I will be running those adventures, and he'll be selling stuff, and we're getting close to the box set for Athcliath. It probably won't make Gen Con. It'll probably make Gary Con.
That's awesome.
But this and that thing we did earlier, the overview book, will be together with 2 other booklets. One of them is how to make your character in the box set. So for those of you who have to save your shekels, wait for the box set and you'll get them all. But if you're at Gen Con, grab this, because literally every building you see here has an NPC with a dirty secret in it. So it's adventure hooks, story hooks you can use for 20 years in real time.
That's great.
That's what's killing my butt. I can't really talk about anything else other than to say I will be doing signings at Gen Con at the Norse Foundry booth. I don't know why.
That's great, and I know there's a fair number of people who are going to Gen Con.
Not me this year, unfortunately,
no,
but
it's it's too much for
I totally understand, and for me, I attended like from Gen Con 17 right up to I think Gen Con 48 or 49, and I had to stop to look after Jen. So this is my first Gen Con back. So after that break of 30 odd years of attending.
Are you doing Gamehole Con too this year?
Of course, Gamehole Con, and then Gary Con, and there'll be a tiny science fiction convention in Canada in Ottawa called CanCon that I will also do. So yeah, I will be conned out.
Yeah. I mean, that Gary Con, that's 2 whole weekends we're going to be there.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I live for this.
Yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait. It's going to be fantastic.
2 weekends of bad food. I mean, I don't mean bad food. I mean food that is bad for Ed.
Yeah. Well,
the diabetic,
Yeah. We'll go back and we'll get in the club and just hang out in there like I always do and have shows in there and just we'll have a fun time. It'll be great. I can't wait. But we'll talk a little bit about that in a second here as well. So Anna, what do you got going on?
This.
I see that. Beautiful.
I released. Thank you. I released the. This is the first full render. I've been easing into city mapping for 5 years, and Altamira was the I needed something to test out the technology, so to speak, and the workflow, and I never want to test things when I do a commission work. Then I want to rely on technology I know works. So I needed a test bed, and I took for my Shieldlands campaign. That was one of the reasons I chose Southern Shieldlands, because Critwall is a city I kind of interesting and was a little bit of a challenge because it's kind of a flat terrain and you don't really. So I wanted to see if I could map Critwall, and this is the final result, or near final, so to speak. This is all the bits and pieces are in place, so to speak. So I know, so now that and it's on my you can go to my I'm going to link to the Patreon post, or you can go to my website, but the Patreon post is a little bit better because you can download these in original resolution from the Patreon post and look at them. It's the post this time just shows some of the good screenshot, full resolution screenshots, and even higher than full resolution, so you can see the quality, and also some of the underlying data, meaning occlusion, mask, shadow, and so on, because there's a whole technique. I don't go into detail. I will go into detail, and sooner you will have the whole Photoshop file to play with, so you can have all the layers and you can see how it's made, how the sausage is made, so to speak. That will come later when I have a final version, because the full version, it's still in under development, so to speak, but it's there. So the next step in Critwall is to take this into QGIS and start labeling it. And I have tons of stuff. Awesome. I have tons of streets. I have tons of points of interest and stuff like that. For instance, we can just do a little quick here. The ones that saw my game can see there is here is the tournament area just outside of Critwall, and there is a secret little gate going in here. That's the noble gate, where the high and mighty can either come through the gate from the inner city, the south ward, or the new ward, or they can come through the wall itself and then sneak into the arena the back way. That's like the backstage entry into it, so they don't have to go be the regular plebeians and the regular masses of people, so they can sneak in. And you have one set of bleachers and stuff where the nobles sit, and then you have another set here for the commoners on the other side of the arena. So I try to make, there are lots of little thoughtful designs, so to speak, in my design of this Critwall, and so it's rendered, and it's 1 pixel 5 feet, so it's the porta potty scale, and I have the basically I have hundreds of square miles. This is just a little bit. I have hundreds of square miles. I have literally thousands of square miles. I've rendered 4,700 square miles in this resolution. It's not final edit in Photoshop, but I'm getting there. So it's and that was the thing, is that it's all 3D. So you can that will be 3D, and if you look at the go to my link, there's 3D views of it, so to speak. So it's not just like a pretty picture from the top. It's real 3D. You can look at the city from different angles and stuff, so you can see the profile of it and stuff. So and eventually there will be seasons, so you can see the summer, the spring, summer, winter, hard winter. And someone suggested, can you, during one of my players, he plays Cedric, he's really into mapping and stuff, and say, oh, so the different, I saw the angle of the sun is like from the northwest. That doesn't align with being up in the north. So yeah, so I'm thinking about having the different seasons and having the sun set in the sky that will be natural to that part of the planet. So in the winter up north, you will get one that is only lit up by the moonlight or something like that. We'll see. There's a lot of possibilities. We'll see what, but it's technically definitely feasible to do. So,
and that's a great great practice, so that we can just get running with Altamira, which we really need to start really getting running with.
Yeah.
So we gotta start have weekly
so now I have all the technology is there, and this is the results, so to speak, what you can do. And it's a city of, I designed it for roughly about 20,000 people. Right. So this is a city of 20,000 people with, and you can see there's like temples and all the stuff you can see. Fantastic. Yeah. So it was this is my first real attempt at city mapping, and I'm pleased with how it turned out. And there will be more, so to speak. This is the beginning of Greyhawk. I want to do a whole bunch of stuff, including the city of Greyhawk in this quality.
Anna is making Greyhawk real.
That's it.
Thank you. Yep. So it's kind of cool.
Nice.
Yep.
So we also have a great discussion on Wednesday. Let's go over here.
Yeah. And, that's my fault. Yeah.
Well, this is your topic, so you're gonna. So we're gonna do diplomacy in Greyhawk Wednesday evening.
Yeah, we've had these. Yeah, exactly. We've had these kind of academic ones. We have economy, politics, and trade and stuff. Now we go into diplomacy.
No, I'm laughing because diplomacy in Greyhawk is send your troops.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. So we want to dig into it, and there's a lot of aspects when it comes to world building and campaign creation and adventure execution and stuff where diplomacy can play a very interesting part, so to speak. So
I'm just enjoying your map. That is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Wow, yep. Gorgeous.
Thanks. Yep.
Want.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's just Anna's just going to get better and better with time.
Oh yeah, this is my first attempt. This is the first. This is the test prototype, and is that good? So yeah, so it's getting there. Yeah.
So if you haven't seen, I got some really neat new stuff on the table. These are all brand new 3D prints from Gamescape 3D, Buildmaster Crafter, and this is in the Lort Mills. This is part of that long-term stuff I'm doing with my, there you go, Ed, with my crew, and you may see something very similar to this, Ed, in 2 Saturdays. Hint, hint.
That's why I was peering at it.
Yeah,
look, I got to remember all this.
It may be slightly different, but you never know. But as you can see, you got some troops here on the walls, but. Yeah, we haven't even gotten to this point. So on Thursday night, we continue with adventure number 1009, an old nemesis. It turns out they found out that the Dark Brotherhood is back. Some legendary characters in my campaign. Screw the Scarlet Brotherhood. I've had the Dark Brotherhood for 40 years. So they are back and they're causing trouble. And they also found an elven tree from Leslie Reno, Oblivion Seeker's lore in the Earth Journal, and that was a lot of fun. So we're going to continue that on Sunday. On Thursday. We'll have another Gabbin Sunday. I may have something special Saturday night, but it will not be D&D. That's a 50-50 shot. It's going to happen. I may actually stream one of my board game nights at my friend's house just for the heck of it. So, and you'll hear the F-bomb from him every third word, unfortunately, but that we may do it. Show you how competitive our Catan is. And then here, yeah, exactly. And 2 Saturdays on the 12th, the crossover event, 2 drink minimum. Eric Mengi and Ed Greenwood are the 2 confirmed members from 2 Drink Minimum, and Anna's on standby. But we do have Myriad and Darling Creepshow playing. Myriad will be playing her witch character, and Darling will be playing her fighter, Molly Hatchet. So we're going to change it up a little bit. And we'll have she's a hired axe there, Ed. So she's a cool character. And I'm trying to fill 2 more seats, but we got 2 weeks, so. That's what's going on. Now, Gary Con. I was asked by... Oh, showing that again. Gary Con has... do we all know about Founders and Legends? If you don't, it sounds like Ed's going to be there, and a lot of us will be there for that, too. Founders and Legends. Let me get to here. I don't know if it's sold out or not. It looks like you can still buy badges. Garner, is this not sold out yet? I was asked by Luke Gygax to run a special game here at Founders and Legends. 3 straight days of a classic Greyhawk module of my choosing. So he asked if I'd do it, and I said of course. So I'm working out the details, but it sounds like that's what I'm going to be doing here at Founders and Legends. I'm going to run a classic. I got it down to I think 3. I'd say going to be Cult of the Reptile God or Baltron's Beacon or one other, and I think I'm going to. That's cool to hear. And this is the first weekend before Gary Con, so I will be running something Greyhawk special based 3 straight mornings, the entire length of the con. Yeah, that'll be a blast.
Against the Reptile God, but with flumps.
Yeah, with flumps. Oh my God. Yeah, so one of those I'll be running here at Founders and Legends that first weekend. Then the second weekend, I'm going to have a game. Are you ready for this? We're going to have a game with 4 of the Slav Squad members are going to be there. 5 if you count Josh, but he's too busy normally. So we're going to have a game with the Slav Squad with open signups on Friday, and then we're going to have a game with Ed and 2 Drink Minimum with open signups. All right. So you're going to Gary Con, and you can get one of those few tickets to the game. You may be able to play with Ed or play with Darling and play with Myriad and Bones and Mandy. They're all going to. So you get your choice. Yes, because all the Slavs are going to be there at Gary Con. So look at all the great stuff you found out tonight.
Hey, I get to meet them in person.
You do, and you get to drink with them in person too. Absolutely.
Oh no, I mean, I'm sure there are state laws.
Yeah, and Dave from Guild Superior is going to be there. Wiley Hobbit's going to be there, and we got a whole crew of people that are going to be there from this community.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time. So that's what's going on. I know it's a lot. Sorry, but we're having so much fun with Ed tonight, and Ed is so gracious to stay a little late. Let's do the 3 giveaways. Remember, here's your choice. All right, and if you don't have all 3 of these, that's fine. But you get your choice of Treasures of Greyhawk, or the actual City of Greyhawk in reprint. They're all in reprint, or Ed's Drow the Underdark. And also, the third one's a $25 gift certificate from Troller Games, which I don't have yet, but Chuck, he'll get it to me shortly. Those are the 3 options. Let's do these. Last call, exclamation point drawing. And then we're going to find someone to rate. Oh, I always rate in the Darling on Sunday, so we're going to rate in the Darling. All right. Sound good? All right, here we go. I'm going to close it out here. Ed, thanks. This was a fun night.
This was fun. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful, as always. And it's so much fun.
And I'm drooling over Anna's maps. I am drooling.
Yes, it's going to...
Holy crap. Gamers everywhere should be going, gah.
We will have a city on that level in a box set coming out from Troller Games. I promise. Yeah, I cannot wait. So, yeah, Casey, absolutely. What a fun time having Ed on. And just nothing's off limits, and we talk about a lot of things that people may not know, or people and it just shows that gaming's alive and well. So here we go. Let's close this out. Yeah, thank you for linking that. The Noble Dwarf, Alex. Linked just now
thank
in
you.
chat.
Thank you for
was
linking
awesome.
that.
All right, here we go. First winner. It's a casualty. Tell me what you want, please. You got your choice. You got the Drow the Underdark. It's a casualty. Good. I got your address. Next winner. Tim Satley, T-Sats, Zarathon's brother-in-law.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. Who's at Gary Con every year, too.
Yep.
Tim's there, too.
Ooh, Tim.
So hopefully Tim's in chat to claim. Let me just double-check, make sure he's in here. I see him in chat. He may be in lurk. So there you go.
That's good, Casey.
Tim,
more living Greyhawk shows.
Tim, do you want the $25 gift certificate to Troller Games, or do you want City Greyhawk, or the Treasures of Greyhawk? You tell me. Okay. Last winner. And then please hang out for the raid into Darling. Razkul. Gratz.
Oh,
there you go.
That's a new one.
Fairly new. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just let me know. You got treasures. Got it. Awesome. Razkul, you get give me a day or two. You get a code for a $25 gift certificate from Troller Games. Good for anything there. So that's great. Razkul, I will need to get that to you as soon as Chuck gives it to me. Thank you so very much, everyone. Ed, what a pleasure. I know you got so much going on there. Check out Ed's Patreon and his YouTube. My God, it's cranking out. His people are doing wonderful work helping out. And
so many awesome videos and stuff. It's great.
Yeah. And remember, folks, you don't have to pay. There's a free level on the Patreon, and I'm cranking out Realms Lore for free too. It's okay.
Yep.
It's not to pry money out of your wallet.
Yep.
There's stuff there for free.
Yep. And I will revamp this fall. I will revamp my Patreon, and there will be nothing behind the paywall ever, so to speak. That's the thing. So I will revamp it, and because it's I'm getting to that level now that whereas there's nearly 500 of you, so it's getting good. So it's getting too complicated for me. So I want to simplify it and make it simple for me and for others. So that will be So there will be a change coming, and there's also new services and stuff that Patreon will come with that will change things a little bit too. Hopefully for the better. Yeah.
So don't forget, 6:00 Eastern in 2 Saturdays, Ed's going to be back with Ravalantar, and we're going to have a fun time that night. Trust me, because you're going to see some different characters from the ladies that are playing with him, and that's going to throw a wrench into things and change it up. But it's going to be fun, I guarantee it. And I'm not killing her, but no long rests, as Garner says. Never again. No, that was a Gary Con last year. I let you guys, So. All right, we'll see you all soon. Let's raid into Darling. Have a great night, everyone, and see you Wednesday night.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Oh, thanks, Ed. That was fantastic.
That was so much fun.
That was a great discussion tonight.
That was a lot of world building awesomeness in this one.
Yeah.
And that just makes when you get into these kind of discussions, you can go almost anywhere with the topic. And that's what makes it so much fun. Is that
we'll see if they can. Get us raided over somewhere. We get
it's working.
27, 41.
We should probably get close to 100.
Yeah, 92, 95. We were going 96, 97, awesome. 98.
Awesome, 98. That's fantastic. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you Wednesday. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, she's gonna love that.
Yeah, it popped over.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. This is so I'm getting that.